Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our live stream. I hope you could hear us, you could see us. Body loose, Bolorin. Good morning, everyone. This is Unified Armenia channel, and we're testing our equipment. We have so much equipment here. Too many cameras, too many microphones. I just told them to give me one camera, one microphone, but no, we have 5 cameras, 5 microphones. Folks, so I hope you could see something on your screen, like a little, at least if you're seeing a little logo that says Unified Armenia with a website, myarmenianfamily.com. Mission accomplished. I mean, of course, most importantly, if you could at least hear my voice, I would say mission is accomplished as well. So today we're going to talk briefly about Israel's final recognition of Armenia's genocide. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar decided to say it's never too late to recognize Armenian genocide that happened in 1915. Well, what can we say, folks? Us representing Armenians, 17 million Armenians around the world, probably we should say toda, right? We should probably say thank you in Hebrew. Or maybe we should even say toda rabba, right? Thank you so much for finally just out of nowhere just saying, well, maybe the relationship with Turkey or Erdogan are not going that great. And this is just a way of needling at Erdogan's back, so to speak. Who knows, folks? But at least we're going to say from the bottom of our hearts, we're going to say thank you. Toda rabba. Thank you very much. And so let's get into what we do, who we are. I'm going to introduce you to our philosophy, to our Christian faith, folks. The most important thing, the foundation that we have as Armenians is our faith, our Christian faith. And the lack of it for most of you, most of us, most of you. So our main goal of our movement, of our organization, is to increase our faith so we could have the same faith that the disciples of Jesus the Christ used to have 2,000 years ago. So we would be able to walk on water, heal the sick, cast out demons, and raise the dead. That's at the minimum, folks. And we have a methodology for that. We're going to teach you, share with you these secrets. It's a 3,000-year-old prayer or meditation. It's called the Agape meditation. We're going to share it with you. So, and we're also going to reintegrate Armenia into the global Christendom. That's right. You heard me right. Not introduce, not integrate, but reintegrate and reintroduce Armenia into the global Christendom, because there are 2.6 billion Christians around the world. And most of them don't know where Armenia is. Most of them, unfortunately, don't know that Armenia was the first nation to officially adopt Christianity as its state religion. And we're going to change that, folks. We're going to be on a global map. We're going to bring hypersonic drones, Aragats RH-225, to the Republic of Armenia, so that we can create the most secure country in the world and the most prosperous. So we're going to bring security with Aragats 225 drones. We're going to create jobs by building factories that will be manufacturing these Aragats 225 hypersonic drones. We're going to boost the economy using the LKY and Japanese economic miracle principles. This is what I studied all my life, folks. And we have a very large team of economists who will be implementing all these strategies that were used by LKY in Singapore, that took Singapore from a tiny, little swampy island of 500 square kilometers and made it into a global financial center 23 years down the road. Did you know what the annual GDP of Singapore is today? Well, I'm going to give you a little hint, folks. It's north of $500 billion. North of $500 billion. The GDP of Armenia is $25 to $28 billion. Now, Armenia is 41 times larger in size than Singapore. So how could this be? A tiny little island separated by 4 to 16 different languages. They had a serious problem communicating with different ethnic groups on their tiny little swampy island. The size of it was 500 square kilometers. Now it's 741 kilometers because they reclaimed some of the land. So how could this be? They're 500 billion, Armenia is 25. It's the approach, folks. It's the approach. We're going to change that. We need a leader Not a musician, but a leader, a strong, smart leader, very well-educated Christian leader who will lead the Republic of Armenia with his brains, with his spirit, with his connection to God, the creator of the universe. And so far, everybody worships the devil, 99% of the population globally, or so. I mean, 90%, maybe 85%. I'm trying to be positive here, folks. With everything that's been going around, we're no longer seeing or hearing of the rumors of wars. We're actually seeing them on our news, on our TV screens. By watching the local news or national news, international news, we're seeing the wars, global wars. And it's about to start, folks. Everything you're seeing right now in Iran, in Lebanon, in the Gulf region, it's just a prelude. It's just the beginning, folks. It's nothing. You haven't seen anything yet. Very soon you'll see a nuclear exchange between the United States, China, and Russia. Now, that will be the time when you'll need nuclear bunkers, nuclear shelters. And we're building them underneath Yerevan at the depth of 235 meters. And our bunkers, once they're ready, we're going to share it with you, the news. I'm going to give you a grand tour. They're going to accommodate up to 144,000 inhabitants. So we invite you, if you've been considering coming to Armenia, if you're ethnically Armenian, or maybe if you're not even Armenian, but you want to contribute to the well-being of Armenia, if you're a Christian, if you're a man or a woman of faith, if you believe in the Bible, if you believe in the Quran, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, if you have your daily mantras read, the Hare Krishna mantras, if you're someone who worships or follows something spiritual, you would be welcome in our new super state. We'll create a superpower in the Caucasus. The Caucasus is the region near the Caucasus Mountains. And so we're going to bring the prisoners back. Ruben Vardanyan is an enormous contributor to the well-being of Armenia. And we're working using contacts in Brussels, people who fly to see Ilham Aliyev every almost week on official business, state business. We're trying to use our good connections in Brussels to negotiate something and bring Ruben Vardanyan and the rest of the prisoners back to Armenia. And as soon as that happens, you'll be the first to see it on our channel. Our boys will be flying home on a private jet to Armenia from Baku. The brain drain, folks, this is another huge topic that I'd like to spend a few moments on. We're going to stop and reverse the brain drain that happened in the early 90s when the smartest, the brightest, the scientists, the engineers have left the Republic of Armenia because it fell apart, because they were part of the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991 Anno Domini. So Armenia was in the dark. Those were the dark and cold days. For 6 years, Armenia did not have any electricity, running water, or natural gas. People had to cut down trees in their parks and burn books just to keep themselves warm in a tiny little Soviet ice-cold apartments that were not heated by anything. So that's the reality. But then it was over. Now it's comfy, and we're going to make sure that this will never happen again. So we're going to hunt down and bring back all of our, all the brains back. The intelligentsia, the smartest Armenians who are scattered around the world. Most of them are in the United States. So, and I'm going to mention them by name in just a little bit. For example, we're trying to bring Dr. Oganov. He got his first PhD. Just one example. I'm going to move on. I have many, many names to share with you, but just one example. Dr. Oganov got his first PhD in London, his second PhD in Switzerland at ETH. He spent many, many decades in the United States, and then he wanted to come home, folks. You might think, well, Armenia would welcome him and just accommodate all of his needs. No, Armenia pretty much, it didn't work out because they couldn't accommodate his salary requirements, so he had to go to Moscow. Now he heads the Skolkovo Institute of Nanomolecular whatever. He's a crystallographer. His specialty is, his expertise is in creating new nanomaterials that are stronger than steel and lighter than paper. So we need people like that. So we're going to Dr. Oganov. We're working. We're going to bring you to Armenia one of these days, whatever you want, your wife, your 4 kids, and anything you wish. A large, big house, an apartment downtown, a summer cottage in Dilijan or at Lake Sivan, or all of the above, a car, an SUV, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you wish, a chauffeur, so you'd be driven around Armenia and not having to waste your time or your attention on the terrible traffic jams that Yerevan gets occasionally. We want you to focus 24/7 on betterment of Armenia, on making Armenia the most secure and prosperous country in the region and eventually in the world. This is a plan. So the next part, we're going to introduce an aggressive, robust anti-corruption campaign, very similar to what LKY did in Singapore. Folks, you know what he did? Even when his close friends were caught red-handed taking a bribe, like they were videotaped, photographed, the people were wondering, would he bail them out? No, folks, he was not. LKY is just a master disciplinarian. He said, if I'm going to bail out my friends, I'm going to bail out my other friends. So he basically sent him to jail. He never used his political power position of him being pretty much like a comfy little dictator of Singapore to bail out his friends. They all went to jail, folks, for 100 million quintillion years. They're rotting in jail to this point. So you take a bribe, you go to jail for 100 quintillion years, folks. So that should be the policy. Non-negotiable. You get caught with however way, it's no longer with an envelope in your suitcase, or no longer even a suitcase, folks. It's Bitcoin. It's how they bribe people these days. Bitcoin. So, I mean, however way, you take a bribe, you go to jail, basically. Uncompromising, non-negotiable, robust, aggressive anti-corruption campaign. And it's going to work. So this is exactly what LKY implemented. The next thing, education, folks. We're going to bring back again the top educators, top diplomats to Armenia we have a number of American Armenian diplomats that are retired in Los Angeles, California. We're going to bring them home, and many of them have met Anastas Mikoyan in 1959 Anno Domini, when Anastas came to the United States on an official visit. Now, can you imagine meeting Anastas Mikoyan, the legendary Soviet diplomat, if you are a diplomat? It's like meeting Joseph Stalin. By the way, some of them have met Joseph Stalin before he passed away. This is remarkable. But anyway, we have a connection here at... anyway, I'm going to tell you later. So his daughter, Svetlana Alliluyeva, she died in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, something like in 2017. So if you're interested, you could watch the interviews taken by Svetlana about Svetlana. Svetlana Parshina made an interview. She actually talked her into giving her an interview because Alliluyeva the daughter of Joseph Stalin, did not want to give any interviews while living in this retirement center in Wisconsin. And so finally, Svetlana Parshina, the younger reporter, she wouldn't let her let her be, and so she kept bugging her. And so finally, Svetlana, the daughter of Joseph Stalin, said, okay, you take me for a boat ride. They have a series of canals there where they live, folks. And she'd like to be taken on a boat ride as a passenger, of course. She would never, I guess, try to, navigate the boats herself. So anyways, the younger Svetlana took Svetlana Alliluyeva, the daughter of Joseph Stalin, on a boat ride. And in return, she gave her an interview, like a 3-hour-long interview, which is remarkable. I believe it's still on YouTube if you're interested. Just a remarkable how just the daughter of Joseph Stalin, you could watch it, you could just connect your own dots if you wish. But it's a historical interview with the daughter of Joseph Stalin in the United States of America, who just became an American citizen. It's just anyway, my point is, folks, I got distracted slightly. So these people who used to meet Anastas Mikoyan, Joseph Stalin, these American Armenian diplomats are in our database. They're our friends, and they would be willing to move to Armenia to train and teach the next generation of Armenian diplomats and politicians how to do global business, how to think on a global scale. not in a tiny little Caucasian, post-Soviet way. You cannot think like that, folks, if you want to be a global empire, a global nation, a global democratic empire is the wrong word, folks. That's the wrong terminology that just slipped out of my tongue. If you want to be a superpower of the region, you need the best training. And we're going to bring those diplomats who are retired. They speak Armenian. And by the way, the only way that this young our American Armenian diplomat could get to Anastas Mikoyan, everything was cordoned off. There were security guards everywhere, on both sides, security guards everywhere. So he actually yelled at him in Armenian, and they started the conversation. So he kind of motioned. He said, okay, let this guy through. He speaks Armenian. And he said, let me tell you, what's your name? And then they got introduced, they shook hands, and the security was all over the place. Who is this guy? How did he even get in? But anyway, he was a young diplomat at that point in 1959. And he said, I tell you what, Anastas Mikoyan told us, our Armenian retired diplomat, he said, Armenians are everywhere. At every corner, everywhere he goes, there's an Armenian speaking to him in Armenian. So we truly have a global, folks, a global network of highly sufficient, intelligent, brightest, smartest, most ingenious people on the face of the earth. We're everywhere, folks. We're 17 million. This is a very conservative estimate. You see, our supercomputer did a calculation, and we have all of their phone numbers, dates of birth, their addresses, social security numbers, their photographs, all of their email addresses, everything. So we're going to do an outreach campaign to invite 17 million Armenians to return, to move to the Republic of Armenia. For those of them who've never been there, they can't return. They would be going perhaps for the first time. We're even going to bring 450, well, some of them, like the engineers and the scientists, the historians. We're going to bring some of the Turkish Armenians. Yes, there are about approximately 450,000 Armenians who have a Turkish name, Turkish passport. They kind of are cryptic. They're called cryptic Armenians because they cannot. The Turkish government will punish you severely if you admit that you're Armenian, that you believe in the genocide, stuff like that. Folks, it's a very repressive regime in Turkey. But it's changing. Erdogan is crying now when he mentions Armenians. So it's an improvement, going somewhere good. I believe so. And Erdogan, by the way, we have a whole movie that's going to come out, a video that's going to come out on YouTube. What the Christians should know about the Armenian genocide, addressing the Armenian genocide, and our audience is 2.6 billion Christians around the world, folks. And we're going to talk about, you'll see me, you'll see, by the way, I'm still hoping you can hear me. I'm not sure. It says it's transmitting, excellent connection. All the lights are green. So I hope you're either seeing me or you're seeing Unified Armenia logo with the website, myarmenianfamily.com. I hope you're seeing some. Most importantly, folks, I hope you're not just seeing the logo, you're hearing my voice. That's the most important part, is the audio. In every video, the most important part is the audio. Never forget this, folks. So I hope everything is working, everything is moving smoothly. So Gideon Sa'ar, the Israeli's foreign minister, finally, he admitted maybe we should just recognize the Armenian genocide. Yes. Well, again, toda raba to all of the people who were involved. Thank you so much, so much. We just can't express our gratitude. When we need you the most, you're always there. We're always there. You're always just absolutely just fabulous people. Just the best on the planet. Yes. You just always could count on you, folks, in Israel or the Palestine, whatever you want to call that land. Yeah. Anyway, so folks, back to our list of projects that we're going to cover. So security, making Armenia the most secure country in the world with Aragats 225 hypersonic drones. Number 2, creating jobs, quality jobs, Western style, decent jobs with Western style salaries. We're going to be paying $2,000 to $5,000 per month, every month, to all of our staff members, engineers, workers at our factories. And our factories are going to be strategically located across Armenia, the Republic of Armenia. Not concentrated in Yerevan. No. We're trying to basically, equally kind of spread the wealth, if you will. We have $3.2 billion allocated for this project. Approximately about 650,000 million was already 650 million, not thousand, 650 million has been already used up. But whatever's remaining, will be applied to all of these projects that I'm sharing with you. And then once we run out of funds, we're going to get more funds, folks. Because remember, I studied economics. Money is made out of thin air these days, folks. Western money does not exist. I mean, it's just made by a large mainframe computer. It's produced digitally since the 1960s in the United States of America. And in 1971, when you remember, on August the 15th, 1971, Anno Domini, when President Richard Nixon read that little piece of paper stating that they want to protect the American dollar against the traitors, the bad guys, he was essentially saying the U.S. economy has defaulted. We're no longer, basically they cut off, detethered the U.S. dollar from any precious metal, such as gold or silver. So in 1971, on Sunday, he read that little tiny note in his tiny little hands. But on a Monday, the following day, August the 16th, it took effect. So the US dollar became detethered from all precious metals. So it became just paper money, or it became what is known in the industry as fiat money, folks. So, which means when translated from Latin, it simply means taken by faith. So if you believe in it, it means it has some value. It's worth something to you. If you don't believe in it, then it's worth nothing. It's like toilet paper. And the US dollar has been losing its value for the past, especially 10 plus years. And we're going to get into that why. So then the next point, we're going to introduce Armenian private bank to introduce interest-free loans. That's right. If you need a mortgage, if you need a car loan, if you need a business loan, if you need a personal loan, all of that will be given to all the Armenians in the Republic of Armenia interest-free. And we're following the model of, in the Islamic countries, they have riba-free loans, riba-free banks. For example, if you go to Malaysia, they have riba-free loans, folks. If you go to Iran, riba-free loans. And many, many other countries that have the Sharia law, Islamic law, financial laws. Why? Because according to Islam, if you charge interest, that's the worst sin, folks. It's like enslaving your fellow brother or sister. So that's why they don't do it. How come we do it, folks? How come Christians don't know even about these things? So I'm going to educate you on this. We're going to create a first interest-free bank in Armenia, Armenian private bank. We're already getting it done, basically. And we're going to be offering unlimited funding to all the Armenian entrepreneurs, small business owners, especially small farmers everywhere across Armenia. Interest-free loans, folks. And the way it works is, the point of the riba-free loans or interest-free loans is you pay a tiny little small processing fee, but you don't pay interest. So for example, if you were to buy a house, $100,000 house, 30 years fixed, you'll be giving back, let's say at 5 or 6%, you will be giving back to the bank essentially $300,000, roughly, $275,000, $300,000. 3 times the amount that you borrowed. But with interest-free loans, folks, you're giving back what you borrowed. You only gave to the bank a one-time processing fee. That's the key. And how come nobody knows about it? I'm appalled. These so-called Christian brothers and Christian bankers, and there's like, yeah, we're for equality, but folks, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So let me put you on a quick pause here, just a quick pause. So anyway, we're going to introduce interest-free loans in Armenia. That's going to revolutionize and boost the economy, similar with the strategy that were applied in Japan after World War II and in Singapore. We're going to apply all these strategies. We're going to make English the main language to open up Armenia to the world. This is what Singapore did. That's the first thing LKY did, folks. So that everybody speaks English, like the official language. So that's what we're going to do in Armenia. We have to. Because all the tourists come, they all can read English, folks, but they do not read Armenian. So imagine these tourists from Belarus, from Ukraine, from Russia, from Kazakhstan, from Uzbekistan, from Turkmenistan, from Kazakhstan. They all can read English letters. So if you have your business in Yerevan, just use English. Why do you use Armenian letters, folks? It just boggles my mind. All Russians can read English. So the majority of tourists in Armenia are from the Russian Federation, from Belarus, from Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, from all those countries. They all can read English, folks. They can understand what you're saying, but they cannot read Armenian. So what is the point, folks? I'm just so obvious, rudimentary stuff. It's like marketing 101. Like, I don't know, maybe I was 4 years old. I already knew these things, folks. Why do you want to put Armenian letters on your expensive shops? Nobody reads them. Nobody knows what Armenian letters represent to the Westerners, to the tourists. They don't know. But as soon as you put it in English, they'll say, "Ooh, it's a gallery. Let me go buy a few souvenirs." Do you see my point? Use your brain, folks. I'm referring to all the Armenians in the Republic of Armenia, the so-called entrepreneurs. Use English. Only English for everything you do. No Russian, no Armenian, no Uzbekistani, just English only. That's the global language, folks. Why? Because today, let me put you on a quick pause. Okay, I'm back. So use English only, folks, for your promoting your business in Armenia. Only English letters. No Armenian, no other language. Just one. Not in conjunction with anything. Just English only. Okay, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Because my point is, 8 billion people speak English. Okay, at least understand what you're saying. They can 8.5 can read English flawlessly, fluently. So use English. Don't use any other languages, and that will make your. That's what LKY did, folks. And now they're at 500 billion annually, GDP wise. Singapore is 500 billion. Armenia is 25 billion. I mean, do you see the difference? It's the approach, folks. It's the approach. I'm trying to help you, all of us, so we can work as a family. By the way, our website, if you want to check it out, myarmenianfamily.com. You can read our blogs, phenomenal blog about how the Armenian genocide, the wealth that was stolen by the Turks, helped make the modern Turkish state. That's right. It was based on $1.8 trillion stolen through genocide by the Turks that made the new Republic of Turkey so more or less successful. Let me put you on a quick hold. Okay, folks, I'm back to you. Yeah. Technical issues. I hope you were muted safely while I was taking care of some business here. Let me put you on a quick hold. Okay, folks, I'm back to you. So the next point, introducing private Armenian private bank, interest-free loans. We're going to improve the demographics of Armenia. So to go back to the point, use English only. That will boost your business. Everybody can read English. Nobody can read Armenian. So don't even think about this. Use your brain, folks. Use your brain, God-given brain. English, 8.5 billion people. Armenian, 2 people might be able to read Armenian. So do you want to just be proud Armenian and put your store signs in Armenian and nobody can read it? I'm talking about the tourists, folks. Anyway, demographics. Let's move on to the next point. Enough said. Use English only. Demographics. We're going to pay $3,000 per child for every Armenian family that's going to have a child in the Republic of Armenia. $3,000. So if you're going to make 3 babies, it's going to be $9,000. And so on and so forth. For every child, you're going to get $3,000. This is our only way we know how that actually works to change this catastrophic demographic situation. So Armenia will be, instead of 17 million strong, eventually, once we get everybody to the Republic of Armenia, there will be 25 or 35 million strong. And that's what the Hebrews are doing, folks. If you study them, the Hebrews are having 4 to 6 children per family. Armenia is having 1.3. What the hell, folks? I'm asking you. The Hebrews are doing 4.6. What are they doing differently? Why don't you study how the Hebrews are making babies? Maybe that's the basics. So we're gonna pay you. Long story short, we're gonna save you the trip to the library. Pay you $3,000 for every child. Got it? Get to work. So, next point. Armenia is the oldest civilization in the Armenian highlands. They found just a few months ago. They found a 12,000-year-old circular settlement. It was found dug out by Dr. Jacob Simonyan outside of Yerevan. They were preparing a foundation for a science center. The architect, Tatef Hayrapetyan, she discovered it, and she's noticed it was like Erebuni-style fortress, lots of ancient rocks. So she called the Archaeology Institute of Yerevan, and she asked for Dr. Simonyan. He came over. She said, should we bulldoze it over, or should we wait until you get here? She said, absolutely stay out of it, because this could be a rare discovery. And I'm so glad that they kept it instead of, using their bulldozers to level it to the ground. Yeah, it's a 12,000-year-old settlement from pre-Neolithic, prehistoric site with a bunch of obsidian arrow points, other utensils, skin scrapers that they used to treat. At that point, folks, 12,000 years ago, they had woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoth was roaming the earth. So they're making jackets out of woolly mammoth skin. And so they had to use these very super sharp obsidian objects to scrape the skins and create their, warm down jackets, prehistoric times. So what we call today down jackets, they used to call woolly mammoth jackets. So this is about it, folks. I hope you could hear me. I hope you could see something on your screen. This is an impromptu test of our equipment. I decided to do a live stream to tell you a little bit about our organization, about our philosophy. So 235 meters below ground, we're building a city. It's called the Noah's Ark Eco Village. Okay. So Noah's Ark Eco Village above ground and Noah's Ark Eco Village below ground. Below ground is for safety in case there'll be a nuclear war, which is very, very most likely to happen. I already mentioned the noetic light, agape love. Noetic light is the essence that we'll be sort of pursuing. Agape love through agape meditation is our goal. So the Essenes have perfected. They were in existence long before Jesus came to this planet. So, and Jesus belonged to the Essenes. This is the third fraction of the sort of, if you will, the Hebrew power structure. At that time, they had the Sanhedrin, which was run by the Sadducees and the Pharisees that kept arguing over the issue of resurrection, stuff like that, small stuff. But the Essenes, they were the ascetics. So the third fraction, they didn't possess any, they were not into money, they were not into possessions, they were not into wealth, they were not into earthly power. They were into connection to the creator of the universe, which today we have a phrase, we're going to teach you how to share with you how to get on the frequency of God. So this is the getting to know agape love, which is by definition, it's a biblical term of Greek origin, which means the highest form of divine, unconditional love of God that surpasses all human understanding. And once you develop your spirit of discernment, you'll be able to see the so-called noetic light. Noetic light is, by definition, is the uncreated light, the brightest form of divine emanation. So the sort of manifestation of God, of the creator of the universe, in sort of a physical, if you will, form. Well, in the form of the brightest light that is uncreated light. And it's within us, all of us, we have this noetic light. We just can't see it because we're in the wrong frequency, folks, because we're focused on the wrong things. And we're going to fine-tune your frequency through an awakening, an instant awakening that we're going to be introducing through the agape meditation, through all of these very, very, very ancient traditions. And the awakening is similar to the Satori awakening. Satori is the Japanese concept of instant awakening. We're going to share with you all of these concepts. Netori Karta, who are these people, folks? I'm going to just briefly mention, since we mentioned Israel today. So according to an ultra-Orthodox group in the United States, there are only a few thousand of them, maybe several hundred. So there are maybe anywhere, so a few hundred to a few thousand of them, very small group. They're called Netori Karta International. And it's run by Rabbi Israel Wise, who is truly just a magnificent human being, very kind, very close to God. He walks with God daily. So what do they do? What do they represent? First of all, let me tell you what Netori Karta means when translated into English, and then we're going to proceed to talking about Rabbi Israel Wise's position on Judaism, who are the Jews, and who are those people in so-called the state of Israel. So Netori Karta is a Babylonian dialect of ancient Aramaic excerpt from Jerusalem Talmud. And I could, if you're interested, I could give you the page and chapter and all that. So what it represents. So even if you were fluent in Hebrew, you would not be able to understand what this means. So listen up, folks. If you speak Hebrew, you still need some interpretation. So Netori Karta means guardians of the city when translated into modern English. But it comes from the Babylonian version of this Aramaic from 3,000 years ago, and it matters a lot because it references Psalms 27:17. You can look that up if you want, but I'm going to summarize again. So Netori Karta, the reference of why do they pick this name, guardians of the city, is very, very, very highly symbolic, folks. They're just really something else. When they pick a name, it really sticks. And so according to, if you pull up that passage, if you can read Babylonian Aramaic, and if you can read, anyway, in Psalms 127:17, it just skipped my mind for a second. 127:17, or is it 27:17? Anyway, in the book of Psalms, there's a question posed. Who are the guardians of the city? Are they the soldiers posted at the gates? No. It's the scholars. People of the mind, people of the soul, people of the spirit, those who are on the frequency of God. So Rabbi Israel Wise argues that the true guardians of the city, or what's left of the true Israel, are them. They're the ones who are on the frequency of God. They're the ones who had never hurt a fly. They're the ones who disapprove of the state of Israel because you had to kill 10,000 people on the spot and you had to expel 750,000 Palestinians from their homelands, folks. And this is what Israel Wise, Rabbi Wise, is against. He's against violence. He's against the fact that it was supposed to be all ordained by God. The Messiah was supposed to organize and do these things supernaturally. But according to Rabbi Wise, they were all sinners, unbelievers, devil worshippers. They're under the influence of the demons, demon-possessed, demon-controlled, demon-influenced, greedy, satanic, biomass and two legs kind of human beings. For example, David Ben-Gurion, according to Rabbi Wise, is not even a Jew, according to him. He's just, number one, he does not believe in God. Number two, he's atheist. He was atheist. He's dead now. And his last name is not Ben-Gurion. There's nothing Jewish about it. It was German, folks. It was Grun. Grun with an umlaut above. If you know German alphabet, it's U with two dots above it. That's umlaut. That was his last name, folks. He was no big. So everybody who came to Palestine, they were opportunists, according to Rabbi Wise. They came to steal and to kill the Palestinians, to steal their lands, and to just take and me and more and more. So Rabbi Wise is a remarkable human being because he and his colleagues or brothers in faith, in true Judaic faith, Hebrew faith, they demonstrate and protest in front of the White House, in front of the United Nations in New York City and others, on other parts of the world, in front of the Knesset, for the dissolution of the state of Israel and for giving all the stolen lands back to the Palestinians. Because, according to Rabbi Wise, he says that was a big it's like a sin. It's a big mistake. It's a big sin to be able to sort of like steal the lands, kill the people. 750,000 Palestinians were folks. Just can you picture? They were uprooted and sent off to foreign lands. Does that remind you of something? 1915, perhaps? But it happened in 1948 for the Palestinians. And so Rabbi Israel Wise and his like-minded supporters, his brothers, in, I believe, true faith, they're saying that was not only a mistake, it was like the worst thing you could do, because if you're a man of faith, how could you possibly kill someone to steal this person's land? So it means you, by default, you cannot be following God. You're just a criminal. At best, you're a criminal. So he calls Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a criminal, demon-possessed, demon-controlled, demon-influenced. They're all servants of the devil, Satan, Har Satan in Hebrew. If you speak the original Har Satan means the devil, the accuser, you know. So Har Satan runs the minds of people like Benjamin Netanyahu, all those politicians. So they're all demon-possessed, demon-controlled, demon just me, money, power, let's kill more people. So Benjamin Netanyahu, maybe I've lost count, he has killed 78,000 innocent Palestinians, civilians, in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, folks. 78,000 were killed by American bombs, paid for by the American taxpayers, flown, dropped from the American airplanes. Is this what technology should be for, to kill innocent mothers and their children and the elderly? 78,000, folks. If there's one person killed on the road in a car accident, we mourn. We say, oh my God, this is so sad. Can you picture not one, but 78,000 corpses piled one upon another? Can you picture 78,000 corpses? That's a skyscraper the size of the World Trade Center, 110 stories high. 110 stories, folks. That's a skyscraper. That's 78,000 corpses piled up one upon another, folks. And this is what Benjamin Netanyahu does. So according to Israel Rabbi Wise and their philosophy, Neturei Karta, they're the true ultra-Orthodox Jews. So they not only do they observe the 613 laws, which is very difficult to observe all of them, but they actually do what they were all supposed to do, people of the faith, you know, people of the Bible, so to speak, you know. They don't have a Bible, they have Torah, but the point is, and they have other books, but the point is, Rabbi Wise is protesting for the truth. He's trying to dismantle the state of Israel, which was built upon the blood and gore and bones and corpses of innocent Palestinians. 10,000 were shot in the head outside of their homes. You can watch the testimonial on YouTube, 4K resolution. The eyewitnesses who were little boys, they all survived miraculously, who were not shot. They were aimed at, but they survived. They were buried by the dead bodies of the parents that those people who came to settle and steal their lands, you know, they would shoot those Palestinian families. All of them were killed, folks. Does that remind you of anything? 1915, perhaps? Wink, wink. Hint, hint. So all those people were shot and they ran out of bullets, folks. They ran out of bullets. 10,000 people were killed. And if the ammo was available, the ammunition would have probably killed more people. So when they ran out of bullets, they just expelled the rest 750,000 Palestinians from their homelands. And they took the lands and they say, mine, mine. And those people, folks, did not even believe in God. They were atheists. Ben Gurion, whose German last name is Gurun, is an atheist, folks. He has nothing to do with his religion. His name's Israel. They were political opportunists, folks. They only worried about power, money, prestige, power, more money and more prestige, and build. Money, weapons. They don't know the concept of spirituality. They don't have a concept of God or creator. Just me, more, power. And so this is where Neturei Karta International, I highly recommend you watch them. They have a YouTube channel and they stream live from their protests. You'll see how Rabbi Israel Wise, with his associates, his brothers in faith, They're actually being spat at, kicked, and beaten, physically assaulted by the opposition, and sometimes by the police. The police, folks, the police gets involved sometimes when they come too close to the United Nations headquarters in New York City, or in Switzerland, or in Tel Aviv, or in other parts of the world, in London, folks. I believe there are a few thousand of them. Well, it's a small group, but this is the only true remaining remnant of the Jewish faith, folks. Nothing else. The rest is all fake. They're all like money, power, sex, money, power, sex, more bribes, money, money, money. They're like biomass and two legs, folks. Biomass and two legs. There is nothing spiritual about them. They all go through the motions. They pretend to be Jewish. This is what Rabbi Israel Wise says. The majority of the Jews around the world are not Jews, folks. This is not my words. This is his words. I say all of those Jews are not Jews in his eyes because they don't do what the Talmud tells them to do. They're just imposters, folks. This is the word that Rabbi Wise used. They're imposters. So when you see somebody with a Jewish name, you see somebody say, oh, I'm Jewish. They're not. According to Rabbi Israel Wise, Rabbi Wise considers them to be imposters, meaning fake Jews, not real. And I believe to agree with that, because if you think about it, I mean, if you want to call yourself a child of God or whatever, a spiritual seeker even, and you were willing to kill people to steal their lands, are you out of your mind? You belong in hell. You will burn in hell for all eternity, which is using the modern scientific language. You'll burn in the black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Well, the human souls, the subtle bodies, this is what the human spirits and souls are made out of, subtle bodies, will be expanding and contracting 100 gazillion billion times per second, even though time does not exist there. But this is the punishment. What Jesus said, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is his only way to relate to those uneducated fishermen who only knew 200 words in that Aramaic version of they spoke a Galilean version of Aramaic, which is most simplified version of the language you can imagine. And he was trying to do his best to tell them how painful it would be in hell, which modern terminology would be at the center of the Milky Way galaxies, at the black hole. They didn't know what that was back then, folks. That thought that the Earth was positioned on 3 turtles and sitting in the ocean, and 3 turtles, and you can fall off the known Earth. Let's like a little platter. You would be just walking on the planet, you just fall off the Earth. But anyway, the primitive times, folks. And so Jesus uses linguistic finesse to tell them that there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth, meaning it'll be very painful. And that this part they got. And he only, folks, he was compelled to use 250 words in Aramaic, because the rest they couldn't grasp. They couldn't grasp more than that. So he just circled around with the same terminology over and over and over again. He used a lot of parables, folks, because they couldn't grasp anything else. He couldn't just tell them, oh, you're going to hell, and it's at the center of the Milky Way galaxies, that one day you're going to call it Milky Way galaxy once you discover it in 2,000 years. It's a spiral galaxies, and we're on the 4th arm of the Milky Way galaxies. We travel at the speed of 600 kilometers per second, folks, against the microwave background, cosmic microwave background. We're traveling at the speed of 600 kilometers per second, as was measured not that long ago. So we're traveling through space. We're rotating, around the axis of planet Earth, around the solar system axis, around the galaxy. And the galaxy, we're located in this 4th arm of our spiral galaxy, the Milky Way. But there are other galaxies that we're rotating against. So, folks, we're in constant motion, and just against the cosmic microwave background, our speed is 600 kilometers per second. To give you a perspective, is 2.3 million kilometers per hour. This is the speed at which we're moving in just one of these directions, one of those axis points against the microwave cosmic background, folks. This is fascinating. And we only know 1% of the totality of where we are, what we're doing, what we're here. Most people don't even know who we are, where we come from, where we're going, and what are we doing here, folks. Most people don't know. This is why we created Unified Armenia, to give us vision, to give us new, stronger faith, a direction, new technology, Aragats 225 hypersonic drones. We're going to be creating jobs. We'll be building factories, and we'll be manufacturing those hypersonic drones. We're going to boost the economy of Armenia by using the Japanese economic miracle strategy. There are two schools of thought that we're going to be introducing. We're going to use LKY's Singaporean methodology that he used there. We're going to stop and reverse the brain drain. We're going to bring the most brilliant Armenians back to the Republic of Armenia and maybe relocate many of them who haven't ever been to Armenia. We're going to stop the corruption in Armenia. We're going to bring the educators, like the diplomats, remember I mentioned? And the scientists too, to create a new next generation of Armenians. World class, cutting edge. We're going to be getting reparations. This is the part I believe I may have skipped. Reparations from the Republic of Turkey in the amount of $1.8 trillion. These are very conservative estimates, folks. So we were robbed as a nation of $1.8 trillion from the Hamidian massacres, from the Adana massacres. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of massacres, folks. Try to understand. In our movie that's about to come out, the film, the video on YouTube, you will see it with your own eyes. Nobody talks about these inconvenient things, what they've done to our people. It's not one massacre and it's over. It's like genocide over. No, folks. They were systematically doing this mass murder of Armenians based on faith, that because they were non-Muslims, because they were Christians, based on their ethnic background, because they were non-Turkic people, non-Turkic. Armenians were not Turkic, so they were eliminated based on the language, folks. It came from the very top. The three pashas, folks. And you will see their faces. You will see their burial tombstones in Germany, in Berlin, Germany. You'll see how they were eliminated in 1922, 1921 by the Nemesis organization. You will see all that, folks. And you will see what they did to our people, how they cut off the heads of Armenian men. And there's one picture of an Armenian woman. The woman's head was cut off after she was raped. And they just gave it to the child, folks. Here's your mama. They raped the woman. They cut off her head. They cut off the head of this woman they just raped. And then they gave this head to the little daughter. She was maybe 4 years old, 5 years old. And you said, here's your mama. Play with it. Go. And this daughter was trying to... Folks, just imagine the PTSD after that. The post-traumatic stress disorder after this little girl was given a severed head of her mommy. And she tried to keep it safe. She tried to cover it up with her. She tried to hug it, folks. She tried to cover it up. She says, Mommy, she couldn't comprehend what was going on at 4 years old. She thought it was her mother still. Folks, she tried to hang on to the head for like weeks or months, folks, because she couldn't comprehend. She was 4 years old. She says, Mommy, wake up. That's what she kept saying. Can you imagine the trauma this little girl and millions of other Armenians have gone through because of these Turks and Kurdish tribes felt like they could get away because these three people, the three pashas, Enver Pasha, Talat Pasha, and Jamal Pasha, told their henchmen, the hired executioners, the Kurdish people, you could do whatever you want. You'll get away. Whatever property you take from the Armenians, you get to keep it. So you basically, we might even give you their house, we might give you their horse, their whatever, all the property that they had, their business. If it's a farm, you're going to keep their farm, bank accounts. And this is the part that nobody talks. We have documentation, folks, how they divvied up the bank accounts, the insurance policies, life insurance policies. And we trace them back to famous banks in Germany and most famous life insurance companies that operate to this day in the United States and in Germany. They're global, folks. They're global. Multinational corporations. We're going to pursue them all. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits we're going to file against all of them. All of them. We'll spend billions of dollars in just legal filing fees, folks. We're going to flood them, flood the system. The whole world will see what they have done to the Armenian people. Not just in 1915, folks. It's just one episode. It started in the 1800s. They call it the Armenian question that kept coming up in what was still the Ottoman Empire, and then later when it became the the Republic of Turkey in 1923. It just kept coming up, kept coming up. And so we're going to shed all this light. We're going to share with the global audience, with our 2.6 billion Christians who don't even know what was done to the Armenians for their faith, for our faith, for the faith of our forefathers who in 301 Anno Domini accepted Christianity. And then we had to pay for it with such tragic events, folks. There's always a price to pay. So that is something that nobody wants to talk about. I was like, why not? Why don't you want to show the severed heads of Armenian men? And that's what they were doing, folks, for entertainment reasons. Like if there were, can you imagine just this one place? You'll see that there's one Turkish activist of Armenian descent, activist and a lawyer. She was the personal lawyer of Hrant Dink before he was assassinated in Turkey. You'll see that in our video. You'll see her pictures, you'll see her photos, and you'll see how she's pointing at the bridge, folks. The river there was jammed with Armenian corpses. The water would not flow through the river. It was a pretty, boisterous river there. I mean, it's a pretty strong current. They had hundreds of thousands of Armenian corpses, beheaded men, and many of them were women too. They were jamming the bridges across Turkey. The rivers flowed, they found the detours or something like that, folks. It was unbelievable. They turned red because of the Armenian blood in the rivers, folks. And then people downstream who were drinking the water, many of them died because of, if you kill 1 million people and the river gets red with Armenian blood, I mean, that's like, you see, folks, it's in there was a battle that was lost by the Turks because of that too. So, nobody wants to talk about these things, folks, what they've done. Everybody wants to just use this cutesy little word, genocide, and just get away because Raphael Lemkin just created it. And that's cute enough, right? No, folks, we're going to talk about it in great, gruesome detail, what they've done, how they kept these Armenian heads on their bookshelf. Instead of books, the Turks and the Kurdish people had Armenian heads as souvenirs. But can you imagine the barbarism, the level of their evolution, their awareness, how could you even possibly cut somebody's head off and then would want to keep it and would want to bring it to your home and place it on your bookshelf, folks? That's like unheard of. Like, to me, it's like, I cannot even fathom what I'm saying this, but this is documented. You'll see that in the photographs, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photographs from that era. Turks were pointing their guns at their Armenian at the severed heads of Armenian men. And they were laying on their little tables, their little coffee tables in their little dining rooms, folks. This is their level of culture, evolution, awareness. This is the barbarism that they had, folks. These are the people were kind of sort of like, do you want to open up Turkey? Do business with Turkey? So that those people who killed your relatives would come and now might even want to look at your head also to take it back home as a souvenir? Is that what you want to do if they don't even acknowledge what they've done to the Armenians, to us, to our forefathers, to our relatives, family members and friends? Erdogan, I'm telling you, you're going to burn in motherfucking hell, amigo, unless you will immediately recognize the genocide, apologize, repent, to where we see tears in your fucking eyes, motherfucker. Unless we see tears in your motherfucking eyes and a genuine apology, there is no business we're going to be doing with you. No way, Jose, no way. Zero chance. Because you cannot do any business with a person who just killed your family, decapitated your entire family. 1.5 to 2.2 million Armenians were killed, folks, in the most brutal, violent, satanic, diabolical way possible you could imagine. And now they're talking about doing business, opening up borders with Turkey. For what? If they don't even acknowledge what they've done, folks, this is beyond absurd. They have to acknowledge, repent, and then pay reparations, be willing to do that. And then maybe we will accept their apology if it's genuine. Maybe then we will open up our borders and maybe we will talk commerce, doing business with them. But until that point, folks, they just killed. Literally, it could have been like yesterday. They came in and killed your entire family, decapitated them, raped your wives, raped your sisters, raped your daughters. And then they killed them too, many of them. And the Germans were participating in that thing. Folks, the German, the German engineering, the German mind, the German OCD, the German people with OCD who they were the engineers of that infrastructure because the Turks weren't that bright genetically. And so they brought in the Germans with their army, with their engineers, with their business people, with their bankers, and they were financing all these things, folks. They were handling all these nuances were handled by the Germans. So the Germans were raping Armenian women every single day. And this is why, and it was told by this movie, the truth about the Armenian Genocide, the real truth about the Armenian Genocide. It just came out in 2026. It was made by the German filmmakers. And eyewitnesses remember how the Germans would come and rape them. And they had these blue-eyed Armenian people after that. So this is why there are so many, well, not so many, but so many blue-eyed Armenians out there in the world. So before you say something stupid about, oh, I have blue eyes, this and that, you better just analyze this. The German soldiers and the bankers, perhaps, were raping Armenian women, and then those Armenian women were giving birth to blue-eyed children. That's why you have blue eyes, amigo. Not because you're some special guy from the north. It's not north, folks. It's from Germany. And they were raping Armenian women. That's the truth. That's in that documentary film. That's the best one I've ever seen so far. It just came out in 2026. It's called The Real Truth About the Armenian Genocide. The opening scene is you actually see the grandson of Jamal Pasha in a roundabout way apologizing, but without saying the words that he was apologizing. But he used the word genocide for the first time, which is most Turks won't admit to it. They don't use such language, folks. They don't use the word genocide. They just said, oh, sorry, it was World War I. But the grandson of Jamal Pasha is the opening scene of that documentary film. I recommend that you watch it if you're into historical documents, He is in a roundabout way kind of sort of opening up the dialogue and saying, yeah, it was genocide. He used the word genocide, actually, which is like, that's an achievement for a Turk to say genocide, referring to the Armenian genocide, because he's Turkish. And his grandfather was the architect of the Armenian mass murder. So he is bringing some, I would say, proper closure to this very, very tragic chapter in the lives of all of us, all Armenians around the world, 17 million strong. And so, folks, that's what I wanted to discuss. Nobody talks about it. Nobody discusses. Everybody, skirts the issue. Oh, it's genocide, 1.5 million. No, it's not. It started decades and decades before 1915, from the 1800s. And we show it in our video that's about to come out. It's 1 hour, 46 minutes long. It's about 2 hour long video, and we cover everything in that video. You'll see me addressing you. But anyway, so it's called What the Christians Should Know About the Armenian Genocide. That's the title already picked for the first video series, and then there will be more and more and more. You just watch our YouTube channel, folks. That's the whole point of communicating with the world. And we're going to reintegrate Armenia into the global Christendom. Armenia will be loved and cherished and perhaps symbolically protected by our global Christian brothers and sisters. 2.6 billion Christians around the world are potentially watching this, listening to this, and they're saying, how could this be? Genocide of our fellow believers who were the first ones to accept Christianity. Folks, yes, Armenia was the first country in the world at that time in 301 Anno Domini, over 1,700 years ago. Echmiadzin Church is 1,700 years old, folks. It's over 1,700 years old if you just Google Echmiadzin. In Armenian, the word Echmiadzin means the descent of the only begotten Son of God, of course. That's what it implies. It's a biblical connotation, biblical term. Echmiadzin means the descent of the only begotten Son of God. Kind of like in Greek, monogenes. Monogenes, in Armenian, it's Echmiadzin, the descent of the only begotten Son of God. So, and then we had to pay the price, folks. You are the first, and then you experience genocide. Because the devil is the one who wreaks havoc in the world, folks. The devil runs our planet. The devil's in your mind. The devil makes your wife cheat on you. The devil makes your husband cheat on you. The devil makes your son or daughter overdose on drugs when you're just sending them to a lovely party, right? A lovely party. Yeah, right, folks. The devil sends his demons on purpose. And they've been around for a long, long time because time doesn't exist there on the other side. They're called those who never sleep. They're by your side, constantly looking and searching and prowling to see if they can catch you at anything you do that you're not supposed to be doing. So 99% when you talk to your spouse, you're not talking to your spouse, you're talking to demons speaking through your spouse. Otherwise, you would all know these things. You would walk with agape love. You would have the noetic light. You will be doing the early morning agape meditations. You would not need this information. You'd not need me. You would not you would know everything about the Essenes. You would know everything about the Sermon on the Mount. How Jesus, that's a verbatim benediction of the Essenes, folks. These words were used hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus came to our planet. And because he was part of the Essenes, he was, if you will, promoting their message. And their message was not part of the Sanhedrin or part of the Pharisees or the Sadducees, folks. It's different. They were the ascetics. They did not believe in wealth. They were not interested in Mercedes-Benz, AMG, or Maybachs, or Bentley Mulsans. They were not interested in driving Rolls-Royce $500,000 automobiles. No, they had communal living. They lived in caves. I mean, very, 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 to put it mildly, very, well, I mean, the living conditions were very crude and very, just ascetic. They were ascetics, folks. There's enough said. The point is, that's the background of Jesus the Christ. Now, the Christ, I keep saying the Christ, folks. It's the Christ in English. That's not his last name. It's not Christ. It's the Christ. The Christ is a biblical term of Greek origin, which means Christos. In Greek, when translated to English, it means the anointed one. And this anointing, you might just say, what the hell is anointing? What is it? Terms? And yes, it's very complicated to wrap your mind around this. This is what we're going to be helping you connect. We're going to help you connect all the dots. So you'll have a perfect Weltanschauung. There's another word I just used. I'm going to explain it to you. Yes. So the anointed one is an ancient 3,000-year-old ceremony where you're being anointed with olive oil, usually for religious or other, if you're going to do something monumental for the human civilization, you have to be anointed by a spiritual leader. Weltanschauung is a beautiful English word of German origin. And of course, if you speak German, you would know what it means immediately, right away, like Zeitgeist, you know that's a spirit of the age. But Weltanschauung it's a philosophical, political term in the United States and in the English-speaking world. It means a more complete or filtered worldview. It's a worldview, but it's not the one presented from the TV screen, the indoctrinated, the brainwashing kind of a nonsense that you see 24/7, right? So let me pause for 1 second here. Okay, folks, I'm back. So Weltanschauung, I highly recommend if you're not using this word to start using it, because it's a beautiful it's a beautiful term that describes a unique perspective of the world. It's more complete. It's much more filtered. It's much more dynamic. It's your own fuller perception of the world, not your indoctrination nonsense that you hear from social media or the television set if you still watch the TV, you know? So Weltanschauung, it means worldview, but a filtered worldview. So we're going to share with you all these concepts. They're very, very important. So the awakening or the Satori experience, using that sort of a Japanese approach, is a beautiful, beautiful concept. So essentially at this point, just give you a real example. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you came from. You don't know where you're going. After your physical heart will stop beating. That's a fact. Your name, whatever's in your driver's license and your passport, that's nonsense, folks. It's just a bunch of characters put together by your either parents or your foster parents. You know, if you don't have your real parents. By the way, 80% of people born on planet Earth today in the developed world, their real parents are not their biological parents. They don't even know this, folks. Because of the 28-day cycle, there was a study done in London about 20 years ago. They studied 10,000 women in London. And so completely anonymous. And so 80% of children born in the Western developed countries do not belong to the fathers that are part of the heads of the household are not their biological fathers. So in other words, women went and they made a baby with another man on the side. Plain text. That's a scientific study. You could research this. So the point is, the worldview is incomplete the way it is now. You don't know who you are, where you're going. I mean, after your physical heart will start beating, you don't know where you are. Your name is total nonsense, folks, because that is even not your, possibly not your even parents. This is a real situation. Not 80% of people, it's just it's just a fluke that you might have a father at home. He will be just a provider. He'll just be your father, but he's not your biological father. Your mama went somewhere else and made a baby with another man. This is the statistic. That's just plain text. That's just the reality. And because of that, so everything that you've been fed by your parents fed is a lie. Everything that you've seen on your TV screen in your kindergarten school, it's a lie. Everything from A to Z. A to Z, it's all a lie, folks. And we're going to help you get this Weltanschauung, a more complete picture that's not been, essentially, it's not a bunch of BS, but a bunch of something that you could really relate to. So this is closer to the truth, to the objective truth, okay? And so this information is very simple. For example. So you think your name is, let's say, I don't know, Freddie Mercury, because it's in your passport. It's on your driver's license. You think, oh, my name's Freddie. Well, is it really? Let's say, and this happens a lot, folks, your name is Freddie, but you were born, had you been born in China, your name would be something totally different, Chinese. Had you been born in, let's say, in Italy, your name would be something like, Francesco Riccardi or something like that, Arturo Riccardi. Your name would be Italian. So what does it mean? You're no longer American? You're no longer English, of English sort of a ilk? What does it mean, folks? What does it mean? It means yes. Whoever sort of changes the characters in your document, in your passport, on your birth certificate, they determine your future history. It's all a lie, because there were many children both kidnapped and stolen and sold and whatever. For example, recently there's this Tamila Kakadze in Tbilisi, Georgia. I forget her name. It's like Tamila, start with a T, and her last name is like Kurikadze, Markadze. It's a typical Georgian name, but I just can't remember. You could just Google this, folks. Google it. She's like a big investigative journalist in the Republic of Georgia. She uncovered, folks, this one brave journalist uncovered that in the Republic of Georgia and in the Caucasus region as a whole, since 1971, folks, until just 2017, just recently, relatively recently, from 1971, folks, 500,000 babies were kidnapped, stolen, and sold to the Western parents, folks. That's your Georgian DNA was spread around the world for money. Average price from $10,000 to $50,000 or euros. Doesn't make any difference. So this brave Tamila Sharkadze or Shivardadze, something like that. I forget her name, but this Tamila starts with a T, like Tamra. But it's not Tamra, it's something else, some Georgian name, folks. I don't remember it. This is a live stream. I don't have any notes in front of me. I don't have anything. I'm just opening up my heart and sharing with you what we're going to do for Armenia to make it the most secure and prosperous country in the world. So this Tamara from that you can find easily find. You just type in babies reunited, kidnapped, Tamila, and you'll see it. Like there's a lot of videos on YouTube. So anyway, this Tamila, Tomadze, Tamara. So this Tamara, this Tamara reporter from Tbilisi uncovered from 1971 until 2017, there were 500,000 babies, Georgian babies, sold on the black market to Western countries, folks, to countries like Sweden, like Denmark, to the parents who cannot have babies. They just tried and they can't conceive a baby. So they were sold by these. There's a mafia level corruption in Georgia at that time. So 500,000 babies were sold for $10,000 to $50,000 per baby. How, folks? They would tell the parents. So a woman would come into their, maternity ward, hospital, where they give birth to babies in the Soviet times, up until 1991. Is all Soviet. So all the nurses, all the doctors, all the policemen, or they were at that time called militia. Militia used to be police in Georgia at that time. Soviet police used to be called. The name was militia. Anyway, it's not important. So, and politicians. So politicians, police, and the doctors and the nurses were all on the take, meaning they were all involved in this. It's not even a scam, folks. It's a scheme. It's a global scheme. It's not a scam. It's a scheme, folks. How do you sell 500,000 babies, folks, for $10,000 per baby? So anyway, they were all involved. They're all on the take. They were all divvying up the cash. Each one of them got about $5,000. Anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 roughly, because there were several people they had to divvy up, and it went all the way to the top of their sort of a system, the political system. Everybody got a cut, basically, a commission or whatever you want to call it. And so they were sold to Denmark and Sweden and Norway, England, the United States, and now they decide, folks, that now with the DNA test, they began to sort of find each other online, do a test, and they realized that there were many twins. There were many twins that were born, and so they'd sell one baby, and somehow the other baby was somewhere else, and they found each other, folks. They were reuniting after so many years of not knowing they had a sibling. So all those children, my point, folks, all those children were living under fake names, fake biographies, fake everything. Fake everything. So all of us, folks, we live in this fake reality. Just like those Georgian babies were sold into this, I don't know what to call it, this sort of black market new life, like where you're so. I mean, they were not mistreated. They were just those parents in the West. They couldn't have babies, so they were not. I don't think they were, like sexually abused or whatever. They needed a baby. They bought a baby, and they went to Georgia, pick it up, and paid cash. Okay, so that's how they did it, their business back then. From the Soviet Union, from 1971 until 2017, and they finally shut it down, folks. 500,000 babies across Georgia, perhaps even other former republics of the Soviet Union were doing that stuff. Now, folks, this is a criminal organization. This is this is pretty serious stuff. I mean, it's a structure, folks. It's like a state within a state. So they have the Republic of Georgia, part of the USSR, and within that structure, they had their own little structure that could, my God, they could take a baby away, sell it overseas, divvy up the money, and create whatever legend for the baby. I think they use some writers, folks. Today they call them copywriters to write a new life story. So my point is, folks, if you live in the West, more than likely, your parents are not who you don't know who you are. You don't know your real name. You came from Georgia, the Republic of Georgia. Very possible. I mean, unless you do a DNA test, you don't know, folks. You don't know. And in the West, just pretend I never told you this story about Georgia. Just in the United States and in England, in the UK, 80% of babies are born this way. In other words, you might have a father and a mother at home. You have parents. You have your parents, but they're not your real parents, folks. I mean, your mother is the one who gave birth to you, more than likely, but the father that is kind of in your family is not your biological father. That's the whole point of that study. I'm sharing with you the details. This is science. because of that, going back to Weltanschauung and how we're going to introduce this spiritual awakening for all the Armenians and just our fellow Christian brothers and sisters and other spiritual seekers around the world, no matter what your religion, we accept all genuine seekers of the creator of the universe. We're going to share with you the agape meditation, how to experience this instant awakening by being out in nature, folks. If you live in a city, you go to a city park, you do this little connection with the trees. Make sure there's nobody around. You don't bring your cell phones with you. God forbid, folks. No cell phones, no computers. No. Just you and as far away as the city life as possible. Somewhere like city park would be most convenient. But if you see people around you, it's not going to work, folks. It will never work. You have to be secluded in nature. This is the only way to do it. And we're going to share with you all these details. So you will be able to get on the frequency of the tree, then get on the frequency of the Mother Nature in general, and then get on the frequency of God. And then you'll be able to be eventually, after half an hour sessions like that every day, you will be able to, and this is what we show in that video that's about to come out, 1 hour and 46 minutes. It's already done. We're just having some editing. There's so much to edit. It's just unbelievable. So much to adjust so that it looks good all the way from the start to finish, folks. And it's about to be uploaded to YouTube. Just watch for it. It will be called what the Christians should know about the Armenian genocide. Okay, folks, I'm back. I just looked it up. It's actually, the video title will be What Every Christian Should Know About the Armenian Genocide. This will be our first 1 hour and a half long video about everything in it. Whatever I just shared with you will be there. About the genocide, about this, about the awakening, about everything we represent, how we're going to unite not just the Armenians, 17 million Armenians worldwide, but also 2.6 billion Christians around the world. So we'll be essentially united as one. And so back to the story. So it's not Weltanschauung. So it's unfiltered truth, unfiltered kind of a worldview. So in the West, let's say if you're from the UK, from the United States, you think you have a father. He may not be your father, your biological father. You might be fathered by some random guy at a bar that your mama had a little connection with some random day at some random time because she was upset with your biological father. It happens 24/7. Why? Demons. Demons control the thoughts and actions of like 100% of women on planet Earth. 100%, folks. I'll tell you a story. See, when we got married, we were 21. And when I saw my wife, this new creature walking around my house, I said, who is this creature? How did she get here? But in reality, I knew, of course, who she was. I mean, we knew each other from college. That's not the point, folks. Folks, I'm trying to share with you how this works in real life. Like, I'm pretty analytical. So when I saw my wife walking inside my house for the first time, I was like, how did this happen? Like, what's going on here? I was by myself. Now this woman walks around my property, rearranges things, and it's like, what is this? The point, folks, I'm trying to make for you. You are going about your business. If you're a man, let's say, right? You have your own plans. And then all of a sudden you meet somebody, let's say it's a pretty woman, let's just say that. And you have a conversation, next thing you're married, next thing she moves in, next thing you have children. And you don't even know, folks, you don't even know where those children come from. Are they yours or not if you don't have that trust and connection, spiritual connection with your wife. The point is, I'm sharing with you, I'm trying to summarize how life works. We really don't know anything about anything. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we come from. We don't know where we're going after our physical hearts will stop beating. And so to help us get some direction in life and meaning in life and purpose in life, we have the awakening to get to know the noetic light, to be part of this agape family. Agape love family. Agape love, again, folks, it's much, 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 much more powerful than the love of your pets. Like if you love your dogs and cats, the agape love is a quintillion times, a million, billion, quintillion times more powerful than the love of, more than how much you love your pets, more than how much you love your parents or your children or your family members. It's indescribable love. Once you get there, it's like you are, by the way, God or the creator of the universe, he is spirit, or it is spirit. He is spirit, it is spirit. We cannot know him other than by getting on his frequency. That's why we call it the frequency of God. We cannot touch him. He's spirit. We're created differently. We have this biomechanical suit or apparatus, or this device that holds our noetic lights, our sparks of God's love, our souls, our spirits, our tiny little sparks of him. And we're one. We're absolutely one, 100%. We just don't know it because we watch too much news on that garbage TV set. And that's what we're trying to share with you to make these corrections. Course correction, folks. Inside of us is the true light of God. We as Armenians, as just Christians in general, we should be carrying this light and sharing it with the rest of the world. Instead, we're being what? We don't have enough of that knowledge, so we're being bamboozled or deceived by the nonsense we see on social media and from every corner these days. So instead of putting our phones down, instead of disciplining our children and grandchildren and all of our family members, younger generation, and just confiscating the phones, now they're glued to the phones, folks. And these gadgets, these technologies are the best way the demons get to their minds and their souls, folks. You have no idea. It's the most dangerous thing on planet Earth right now, because they're completely engulfed into the realm of the demons. Okay, so the world, let me tell you just a little bit. There's so much I could share. There's just, even if I have this live stream for 40 hours, 40 days straight nonstop, I could do it, but it won't cover even 1% of how much I'm trying to share with you little by little. Demons, where do they come from? So this word demon is very, very important, folks, because now you're going to discover what is a monotheistic religion. It's actually not Judaism, folks. It's not the Jews. The Hebrews have created the world's first monotheistic religion, folks. Do you know who it was? No, folks, it's not the Jews. No. About 1,000 years before, well, actually, maybe 1,500 years before Christ. So it's long before the Jews were even, a segmented sort of population, unit. So there were just nomadic tribes traveling across the Levant and the Canaan and their territory, that region, in the desert, and it's like sandy, and the camels and the heat of this desert and the sun and just the scorching sun. So long before all this, they were just nomadic tribes, folks, just like everybody else. And so at that time, already at that primitive time, for the majority of the world, there came a man, blue eyes, reddish beard, 6 feet tall, about 200 pounds. If you don't know pounds, 95 kilograms, 6 feet tall is 183 centimeters tall. Blue eyes, and had his reddish beard, and we only have pictures of him. We don't have a photograph of him. That's why I'm just describing him to you the way he looks on all of those, paintings, I guess. But this man was sent. He was the kindest man of them all. This is 1,000 or 1,500 years before Christ. So this is long before this. There's no Judaism, none of that. No. There's no cutting off the penis, no circumcision, no covenants, better covenants, and no hearing voices, like Abraham said. He heard voices in his head and he didn't know who he was, and blah, 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 blah. None of that, folks. None of that. No voices in their heads, no cutting off penises, no circumcision, no better covenants, none of it. Long before. Okay? So people were trying to make sense of who we are and what we're doing on this planet. And so unless you had a visitation from the other side, from the spiritual realm, from the spiritual world, there was no way anybody could achieve that kind of a knowledge base. And so his name was, can you guess who was the father of the world's first monotheistic religion that was about 1,000 to 1,500 years before Christ? before Christ, folks. This is antiquity such as, they did not even. Okay, I will give you a hint. He spoke an ancient Avestan language, folks. And he lived in the land of the Aryans. Aryans. Yes, that land that Adolphus Hitler was trying to find, but was looking in the wrong spot, folks. He was looking in the mountains of Tibet. Adolphus Hitler funded an expedition several times in 1935, 1937 to the mountains of Tibet. He was looking for the Aryans, the place where they came from. Basically, he was trying to find the Aryans, folks. So Iran, folks, Iran translates into modern English as the land of the Aryan people, folks. And it's pronounced not Iran, but Iran. That's the proper way of pronouncing it. So Zoroaster came from what is today Iran. But at that time, folks, there's this completely different world, folks. So the modern Persian language that they speak today is not ancient Persian. And ancient Persian is not the same as Avestan language. And Avestan language is not as the ancient Avestan language. So he spoke ancient Avestan language, which is exactly the same as Sanskrit, folks. You just have to manipulate just a couple of letters, couple of sounds, and if you can speak Sanskrit, you would be able to understand that ancient Avestan language. The most beautiful, beautiful time where practically at that time, folks, this was truly the birth of the human race, if you will, the human civilization. So Zoroaster spoke that ancient Avestan language, which was just almost identical to the ancient Vedic Sanskrit language. Just a few distinctions, and then you can read it. You can say it, and you'll be able to be understood, and you can understand those who speak the other language. So beautiful time. So he was sent. He was visited by the Spirit, and he became sort of, if you will, he received this revelation. He was awoken. He received this instant awakening, if you will, folks, of agape love. So he became the most kind. He was kind already. He was the kindest person who would never hurt a fly. He would help the animals. He would help the people. He was blue eyes, reddish hair, reddish beard and hair. And in those times, the men never shaved their beards, folks. It was just not possible. So, I mean, it's not even think. You could not even think of such a thing. Anyway, he was walking the earth 1,500 years before Christ, and he was speaking the same language of agape love of Jesus, of what Jesus spoke 2,000 years ago, folks. So the Sermon on the Mount is exactly, almost word for word, what Zoroaster used to preach to his fellow compatriots. That's right, folks. So the first, if you will, the glimmer of hope for the human race and the agape love and this vision of one creator came from Zoroaster. Why? Because he was given the vision that there's only one creator and the rest are all demons, or mostly demons, or they're evil spirits that try to deceive us. So let me give you a background, some content for what we're talking about, folks. So approximately 3,000 years ago, or 3,500 years ago, in that part of the world, this was the only part of the world where there were human beings that had civilization. Outside the baboons or monkeys that were running around planet Earth, that had, Homo sapiens, or the thinking man. At that time, they had already developed a very, very serious pantheon of gods. So they had thousands of gods, folks. Thousands, not hundreds, thousands of gods. So, for example, if you had a headache, you had a god for that. If your wife, you couldn't conceive with your wife, you want a baby, and there's just you're having trouble conceiving a child, you go to a special, if you will, voodoo doctor, not a voodoo doctor, but you go to a specialist. He'll give you a statue of the god that you need to pray, and then you put that statue with your wife wherever she sleeps, and then that will bring her, that would make her, give birth to a son. They were always asking for a son, never a daughter. But anyway, and this is what Abraham's brother used to do, folks. Abraham's brother had a little shop where he sold those knickknacks, those statues, not knickknacks, but the statues. Well, I shouldn't be saying knickknacks, statues, folks. They were not knickknacks. They were religious statues. They were very expensive. It was It was a pretty significant business operation, folks. If you were successful at selling them, and there were people who were coming to you, and you would, it was a business. It was a business, folks. It was a business. It was a form of business, folks. And they were quite expensive. So anyway, so in those days, if you wanted something, you had to appease the right god, and there were thousands of them. That was just status quo. There's no other understanding of the world. There's like none. And so Zoroaster was the first man that ever spoke this, thus speaks Zoroaster, folks. So a quick linguistic side note. So it is incorrect if you're an English-speaking person who lives outside of Iran to call it Farsi, because there's an endonym. So in other words, people inside Iran who speak Persian, they call it Farsi. But for people outside Iran who do not speak Persian, we should all call it Persian, never Farsi, because Farsi is, okay, it's like, for example, if I'm crazy about the German language and I say, and instead of calling it German language, I would say Deutsch, and I would just keep saying, hey, I want to learn Deutsch. You would say, that's kind of odd, right? Why don't you call it German? Do you see my point? So for Germans in Germany, it's called Deutsch. But if you're not a German person, you don't speak German, and you want to just learn how to speak German, you would say, I want to learn German. You wouldn't say, oh, I want to speak Deutsch. It's odd. So all these people running around in the English-speaking world, they say, oh, Farsi. Folks, it's not Farsi, it's Persian. That's the proper terminology. So back to the story. Just call it Persian. If you're not of Iranian descent, if you don't speak Persian, if you're just a Yankee Doodle Dandy gringo, just English is your only language, just call it Persian, folks. It's not Farsi, it's Persian. Back to the story. So at that time, in order to get something done in this world, you had to go to a shop, buy a statue, a very expensive statue of a god or goddess, and you would have to appease. You have to somehow appease to that entity. And if it works, then you give it more attention, and thus the popularity of that god or goddess grows. So there were many, 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 many gods, folks. I studied it. I could just overload you with data. But for example, the most well-known gods at that time, they were established. They were well-known, and by the way, you couldn't just borrow somebody else's god. It was territorial. So for example, the Assyrians, they had their own god, who was god of their people and god of their city, and it's called Ashur. That's the name of the city, folks. So you could, if you're not from Assyria, if you're not of Assyrian blood, you couldn't just sort of say, oh, I'm going to pray to the god. No, folks. You had to have your own god. It was territorial. So now we're coming to the point. How did the Hebrews come up with a name? At some point, folks, they didn't have a god. They had gods, thousands of gods. And then finally they came up with the name Yahweh. That's the name of the desert storm god, which is not El, folks. If there was a creator of the universe, his name would have been El. But it's not El. It's a hybrid of Dionysus and Hephaestus and a few Levantine gods. The storm gods of war and murder. And war, mostly war. So it's a very violent god, Yahweh. And he likes the kidneys to be fried on some kind of a barbecue grill. You remember? He demands sacrifice, human and animal sacrifice constantly. Now, what sort of a structure is that, folks? You have to get those animals somewhere if you want to appease to Yahweh. Do you get my point, folks? So I want you to know about all these nuances. So it was just a made-up word, folks. Yahweh. It just does not exist. It was a composite from other gods. This is how you do it, folks. If you want to become a nation, you have to have your own god. Without a god, you're just nobody, a nomadic tribe that just runs your camels from back and forth across the desert. So if you want to establish yourself, you got to be part of an established pantheon. Like the Assyrians, they had their own god. The Babylonians, they had their own god, folks. The Sumerians, they had their own. Those had multiple gods. The point is, folks, everybody had their own god or hundreds of gods, thousands of gods. They all had their own. And you couldn't just borrow it because you said, I want to. No, it didn't work like that, folks. It was a big business. Statues and this and that and this and that and this and that. So long story short, so I'm going to conclude the story about Zoroaster. So that was the situation. And he said, this is not true. And he received this awakening that there's only one God, the creator of the universe, one. And the rest of them kind of like these spirit beings, many of them, evil spirits. They wish us, they nothing good was going to, they wish us bad. And so they wish us ill, and they wish us nothing good, negativity and early death and illnesses, diseases, viruses, whatever you call it. The point is, folks, he received a revelation, or he was awakened by the Spirit of God, that there's only one God. That was 3,500 years ago, long before, folks, long before all these Hebrew Jewish things. No, folks, it's long before that, long before that. It's 1,500 years before Christ, folks, before Christ. So Zoroaster, which in Persian, in ancient Avestan language, would be Zorohustra. That's how you pronounce it. Zoroaster is the Greek name, and I'm only using it because that's the sort of a Western name accepted around the world. But Zorohustra is the ancient, authentic. That's what they would call it back then in his native language, Zorohustra. But for our sake, we're going to use Greek, Zoroaster. So he was, he's the first messenger of God, if you will, to this, if you will, Western world, if you will, for the lack of a better description. Because at that point, folks, that was it. That was tiny little Mesopotamia over there, and that's it. Mesopotamia is another Greek word which means between the two rivers, folks. It's the area which, for you to picture, is modern-day Iraq, folks. And it has nothing to do with modern-day Iraq, folks. It has nothing to do with Saddam Hussein. It has nothing to do with that. No, folks. It's an ancient civilization, folks. I cannot even stress this enough. Don't picture Saddam Hussein and don't bring them into this picture, folks, please. It's just where Iraq is today, but it has nothing to do with Iraq. It was a completely different time zone, folks, at that time. 3,000 years ago, 500, I mean, my God, 3,000 years ago, folks, it was a completely different, it was just totally different. It would take me 40 days to just begin to describe to you what people spoke, how they dressed, what they worshipped, what they ate, and on and on and on and on and on. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to conclude the story of Zoroaster. He was given this revelation from above by the Spirit of God that there's only one true God, the creator of the universe, and the rest are all, if you will, kind of, wandering spirits. And if you would give the spirit its power or name, it will act accordingly. So let's say and in those days, by the way, folks, very important, in those days, people were almost sort of like telepathic, or they had this ESP. They had this extrasensory perception. So they could see demons much more like animals. Dogs and cats, they could see demons very easily. That's why they get spooked all the time. And horses also sometimes can see the invisible world that we cannot see because we're too, we became too brainwashed by the world. So the point that I'd like to make right now to complete the story about Zoroaster is at that time, Zoroaster could see the invisible world, if you will. He saw sort of these beings. He didn't know who they were, and many people could too. And to help them, if they were so-called shamans, today the modern word is shamans, but in those days they were called sages. They would take some hashish. Hashish is a form of drug. I would never, ever, ever recommend it. Don't use any kind of mushrooms or drugs for anything. They were trying to induce some form of hallucination. They want to get into this trance. They want to enhance the experience, folks. Never do it. Never take this ayahuasca garbage in South America, folks. It's for tourists. What they do is, with ayahuasca in South America, they take dummies from the West, primarily American tourists. They take their money and they give them a bunch of garbage. They never give you the real ayahuasca because it's sacred to them. It's business. Again, it's business, folks. It's down to the dollars and cents here. It's business. So when you go there, they poison you with some garbage. Yes, they make you vomit, but if you didn't vomit, then what's the experience? They will never give you their true ayahuasca plant, folks. That's the whole point. They're the guardians. Like, remember I told you, Natari Karta means the guardians of the city. Rabbi Israel Wise is the guardian of the truth, of who the true Jews are today. And they're the only ones remaining. The rest are all imposters. So when you go to South America and you vomit a bunch of times because you think you got given this, yeah, you're going to hallucinate a little bit, but the real stuff is really different. And you will never, ever, ever be given the real ayahuasca because it's the holy of holies. They will never share it with a gringo. Never, ever. They'll just take your money and give you a bunch of probably synthetic garbage that will make you vomit. And yes, you will hallucinate because it's very easy to, if you're a chemist, you can do it in like 1, 2, 3, and you begin to see stuff. But anyway, back to the story. They would take hashish to enhance it natural. Hashish is a form of, it's a plant, it's a drug derived from plants, folks. Don't do it. I'm just saying that's what they used to do all the time. Even if you remember King Saul, he went with his nephew Jonathan. He was trying to bring Samuel back. Samuel died. Prophet Samuel died, so he was trying to bring him back. And they would pay this witch. And witchcraft was already outlawed by King Saul, but he pretended to be somebody else on the street. So they gave money to this witch. And she took a bunch of hashish into her nostrils. She did this ritual around the bonfire, this and that. And then she brought Samuel from the other side. Prophet Samuel came back to just deliver the message. It says the message was very short and sweet, folks. King Saul wanted to know, he felt like God was kind of departing from him. The grace of God was departing. He said, Samuel, how can I get back with good graces of God's graces, good graces of God, I think he left me. And Samuel said, Saul, if God has left you, why do you bother me? You shall be with me. Today I shall see you here. And then he sort of disappeared. That, folks, that was a seance with the dead people. Yeah, this is what they used to do by taking hashish, by doing this ritualistic sort of, today we call them seances, okay? But back in the day, that's what he did to the witch. And then the witch, folks, immediately she knew it was King Saul. So all of his, clothing that he disguised himself with, that didn't help. She could see his essence. She could see the essence. She said, oh, you are King Saul. You had deceived me. And he said, don't worry, old woman. Just bring Samuel. I'm not interested in you. I'm not going to punish you for using your witchcraft, magic stuff, voodoo stuff. Just bring me Samuel for a little conference call, and then I'll let you go. And they paid her a lot of money, folks, to do that. It's something like 5 years, 10 years worth of living expenses with I don't know what it was. It's something like, I don't know, 100 shekels of gold, something like, I don't know, folks. But the point is, it cost a lot of money to do that kind of a seance back in the days. Same with the ayahuasca in South America. They're fooling you, folks. If you think you're going to come as a gringo from North America or as some Westerner from Western Europe, you're going to get the real ayahuasca, I got a message for you. You get in some synthetic garbage up your system that makes you vomit. You will never have, you have no idea how sacred that plant is to them. They'll never give it to you as an outsider. It stays with the family, folks. So anyway, this is what they used to do. Back to conclude the story of Zoroaster. So Zoroaster got this revelation. He could see the spirits. He got the revelation and awakening that all the spirits he saw were not really real benevolent spirits, meaning they were not good spirits. They were evil spirits. And this is where he changed. This is critical point, folks. I want you to know this because all languages around the world were affected by his decree, by his sort of he concluded that, so this is an ancient Sanskrit and ancient Avestan word, diva. So diva, folks, in 3,500 years ago, it means God or godly deity. It means a deity. It means a heavenly being. And there were thousands and hundreds of them. And long story short, many, many gods that they worship. Diva, remember that? Diva. So she turned it slightly off and he said Dev. Dev is the name for the new, so those thousands and thousands of so-called gods were now devs. And dev, in the singular, it means demon, meaning negative connotation, negative meaning. So Zoroaster, he helped filter out the garbage, so to speak. There's one God, the creator of the universe, and then there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of demons that want to present themselves as God, but they're not. And this was a revolutionary concept at the time, folks. This is what Jesus actually amplified when he was on earth. That was his message. Remember when Jesus was in Jerusalem at the temple, he pointed his finger at the Sanhedrin leadership, at the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and he said, with angry voice, he said, "Why don't you understand my language? Because you belong to your father, the devil." And everything he says is a lie, basically, from the beginning. So remember that passage, folks? That's when Jesus, looking at the Jews, said, "You are of your father, the devil." And that was this distinction. This is very important to understand. So this is what he borrowed this terminology, dev, from old Sanskrit, ancient Sanskrit, from 3,500 years ago. And so it's no longer diva, but it's dev. And in Armenian, just so that you know, everybody who's listening, unfortunately, some Armenians don't know this, but I'm going to illuminate everyone today on this call, on this live stream. In Armenian, the proper word for demon is dev. It is exactly like it was used by Zoroaster. It is exactly how it was used by everyone at that time, because that was the only word that described, it was the classification of an evil spirit, dev. And this root word dev went into dozens and dozens and dozens of languages, folks. Like demonology, dev, Armenian is dev, is in Persian is dev. I mean, every language has this sort of a root word for dev. Dever, deverner, it's the foundational force. This is what separates us, folks, from living a happy life versus suffering. Unless we get this straight, we're going to suffer. So this is the whole point of our philosophy. So the world is run by the devil and his demons, his army of demons, who don't wish us well, folks. They do not wish us well. And most people don't understand this. So they fall into the trap of, oh, I want to do this. I'm going to make, money, wealth, Rolls Royce, Mercedes Benz, S65, AMG, whatever, Bentley Mulsanne. No, folks. That's an illusion. Money is an illusion. I studied money all my life. By education, I'm an economist. So when I was in college, folks, I went to 12 branches of the central bank. Central bank is the European concept, but in the United States, it's called the Federal Reserve System. And the reason why it has 12 branches is because it was very hard to pass this law in 1913, because they were already passed 2 laws. They created 2 central banks in 1791 and then in 1818. They didn't last but only 20 years, folks. They were shut down because the people didn't trust it. This word central bank, centralized power, this power in one place, in the hands of one family, one sort of a group of people, secretive group of people, they didn't trust. That's why the first North American central bank of 1791, it failed. I mean, it lasted for 20 years, then they closed it down. Then in 1816, again, they started the second one. It didn't fly. So they had to strategically, folks, in 1913, they had to change the name. They went away from central bank to this sort of a airy-fairy federal. Doesn't sound centralized. Federal sounds like for the good of everyone. Instead of saying central bank, they called it Federal Reserve System. Reserve phonetically implied, linguistically implied there's something good about it. It's going to be reserving, saving money. And then system instead of bank, it completely a detachment from reality, folks. So money is an illusion. In the 1960s, folks, they started creating money, US dollars, digitally. They were making and these transactions, the SWIFT codes and all that. So this is all these electronic transmissions, folks. It's part of it. And in 1971, they officially detethered from the US dollar being backed by gold or silver. So it became fiat money, unsupported by any precious metals. And so my point is that it's an illusion. It does not exist. Because fiat money, when translated from Latin, it means by faith. If you believe in it, it has some value. If you don't, it doesn't. Just a toilet paper. And so back to the story of awakening and how important it is to recognize the power of demons in our lives. This word dev In the original, folks, I'm using it as Zoroaster used it 3,500 years ago. And Jesus was really amplifying this concept. He is constantly using this thing. Well, you remember what he said. I mean, I could quote the Bible all day long here, but he said, it is written in the New Testament, it says that, well, you believe in God, so do demons, and they shudder, meaning they're afraid. So constantly, there's demonology 101, folks. They're everywhere. They make all of our decisions. They wreak havoc. For example, every car accident was caused by a demon. You just don't know. You're not privy to that information. You don't see it. Your eyes, you just watch the news and you just know nonsense. If your eyes were open, folks, you would see this reality. And this is what we're trying to help you with. Agape meditation, you'll see the noetic light, you'll see demons and angels battling for your lives. Example, and I'm going to conclude the story of Zoroaster, move on and conclude this live stream. So I was a young boy coming from school. It so happened I was coming down the stairs and nobody was around me. It was way after school time. I was coming down the stairs. It was still daytime, but I was coming down the stairs of the schoolyard, not in the school. I was outside. And I was coming onto a street that was kind of an inclined street, about, I want to say 40-degree gradient, 40-degree incline down the hill. So I was going down. I was about to turn downhill in the street. And right before I got on the street, folks, I was maybe 7, 8, 9 years old. I don't remember. But nobody was around. None of my friends. I was just by myself going down the street. It was still daytime, more or less. As I was going down the stairs onto this incline sort of a street, and then I heard a voice loud and clear in my head. This only happened once in my life, more or less once in a lifetime that I could remember like this vividly. Maybe other times I was just, the memory was erased, which could happen too. But I heard the voice that said, it called me by my name, and that says, "Don't go there." I was like, it was so crystal clear, folks. I just, wow. I said, whew. I turned around and I thought somebody was calling me because it was my name and then "Don't go there." And it's like, okay. I turned around, there was nobody there. And as soon as I turned back, folks, I turned my head back to where I was going to go. Remember, we're very silly creatures, very, very three-dimensional, very limited with our knowledge. A car slammed right in front of me into this street light, the light post of the street light, smashed into the smithereens, folks. There was nothing left of the car. Had I not been distracted by that voice that very second, somehow, which did happen, I was distracted. I looked, I was saved, folks. And of course, I didn't connect it at that moment. I didn't connect it with angels trying to protect me. But that was it was an angel who was dispatched to save my life at that moment. And angels, folks, they're far more, so they're made out of subtle matter, the same substance that our souls and spirits are made out of, except they don't have physicalities. They don't have flesh and blood and bone and stuff like that. And they've been, well, according to tradition, they've been around since the creation of the world. So they know everything. They can kind of see around the corner. They more or less know about the future, more or less, but they're dispatched by God to save our lives. That's the whole point of this concept of a guardian angel. And they're all around us, folks. We just can't see them. They only manifest themselves when they have to become physical, like he spoke physically. Well, not maybe physically. I heard his voice loud and clear. He manifested himself in a physical reality in such a way that disrupted my life for a brief moment. And that saved my life. And that was today good enough for me to know I was saved by an angel who was dispatched by God to save my life. In other words, that's the connection. This is the very, very, very complex universe we live in. And this is what we're going to talk about. And so, folks, wow. We're back, folks. We're back. It seems like, okay, so we'll continue our live stream for just a few more minutes. So this is the complex universe that we live in. And our sharing of our philosophy of agape meditation, of noetic light, of this instant awakening will help you. You will be guided. You'll know what to expect. You'll know what's going on. You'll be able to read your wife or your husband like an open book. And husbands, you are supposed to lead your wives. This is our duty, not because it's just written so in our holy book. It's by design, folks. By design. Women are only here to help us procreate, to make babies. So the rest of the responsibility should be on our shoulders. Why? Because we have the prefrontal cortex that's heavily developed. Women have 30% less of the prefrontal cortex that's responsible for logical thinking, navigation, directions. My wife could never tell which way is north, south, west, or east. My mother could never tell directions. My grandmother could never tell directions. She didn't know which way to go, north, south. Why? Because inside the female brain, they have 300 grams less than a male brain, prefrontal cortex, that is responsible for directions, for logical thinking. Why? Because the creator of the universe, or whoever created us, decided to create women just for that function. They get pregnant, give birth to babies, and then they raise the children. The rest is not important. The rest is in our hands, in our realm of responsibilities as men, because we have that part of the brain. We're equipped. Imagine if we didn't have that part of the brain. I mean, if we couldn't tell which way is north, south, it would be kind of pretty difficult to live, folks. And this is how women are in their minds. They're halfway confused. Their reality, folks. I didn't know this before I got married. But oh my God, it's not just every 28 days, folks. Every 5 minutes, there's a rush of new type of emotions that women go through. Not because they're crazy. No. They have hormonal exchanges within their bodies. Massive amounts of hormones are flowing. Not testosterone, different kind of hormones, folks. I'm not referring to if you're thinking hormones, I'm not talking about the male hormones. I'm talking about something that women should have, their own hormones, but they are kind of ejected into their system every sort of 5 minutes or so, and it just flows. It flows. There's massive quantities of this kind of hormone and that kind of hormone, and it creates a disbalance. So between those 5 minutes that they're relatively balanced, they live their lives, folks. This is the time you want to catch your wife or your girlfriend or your future wife, your fiance. This is when you want to make those decisions. But if you put her in that emotional state, folks, men, I'm referring to men right now, I'm talking to men. You have to understand how women are wired. If you catch her during that emotional state, when she's gotten that influx of hormones, she's not herself. She cannot think straight at all. You need to take her by the hand, make her sit down and say, honey, everything will be okay, because you should be able to read your fiance, your wife, that she's in a different state of mind. She's distraught. She's hyper happy, or hyper scared, or hyper anxious, or hyper something else. But in between those mood changes, women have relatively stable mental states. And you could talk to them in between them. And the most important part is not to overexcite them. So if you want to have a conversation, you have to position it right in between. So you catch her, she's using all of her brain functions. So she's logical, she's analytical to the maximum capacity that's given by nature, by God. Otherwise, if you catch her in between those moods, I'm talking to men, I'm trying to help you, I'm sharing with you this acquired knowledge that I received. Because I didn't know it when I was 21, I had no idea. And if you're just, especially young couples getting married, I'm sharing with you. So women and men are brought together in life only for one purpose, and that's to make babies. Because biologically, we're so different, it's unbelievable. Folks, I'm not talking about the obvious here. I'm not talking about our biological difference. I'm talking about, my God, we're different species. Men from women, it's like, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, an observation and opinion, observation mostly. We're different species. And we were made somehow to match just to make babies. That's it. But we're different species otherwise. just brought together, just we make babies. That's it. That's it. Just a tiny bit of interaction just to make babies. The rest we do not belong in the same category. I don't think it's a completely different. Everything is different. Everything is different. Everything is not just biologically, folks. I'm not on that level. I'm saying just everything is different. Women help us procreate. We create the structure for the family, for the safety, security, and spiritual safety for her. It's very, very important. So if you want to have happy babies, you need to plan 6 months in advance. You don't make babies in the back of your car, amigos. You make babies in a very quiet and appropriate setting. Candles, classical music, very, very slow music. And the more passionate you'll be, the more crazy your children will be. But if you do it right with agape love, agape meditation, your children will be blessed. Your children will not be little devil incarnates. Your children will be blessed. Your children will have a different soul, different path. It's all connected to your thoughts. So a man's so the man's role in that scenario is to create a safe environment for the woman. So she only listens to classical music or whatever, some kind of a Gregorian chants. No stress for her during that entire process, not just for the moment of conception. No. The entire process of like 6 months before you even think about making a baby, you have to prepare your woman to have a healthy, emotionally stable child. So she could give birth to a healthy, emotionally stable child. 6 months before. So she needs to be praying. You need to be praying with her. It needs to be a process. And then when you make a baby, and then after that, throughout that process, the whole process, folks, the baby, even though when the baby is not born, the baby, he or she is already part of your family. They're already listening to how you talk to your wife. And if it's constantly something stressful, the baby will feel that, folks, inside her womb before the baby is even born. And that's why there's so many. My God, so many scarred families with children that have all kinds of deficiencies and birth defects and this and that. I'm not going to even go into what we're experiencing today with autism and you name it and this and that. Folks, just imagine in the Soviet Union and the United States, these are the leaders of killing babies through abortion. Hundreds of millions of babies were killed. Now, imagine if we're on that level, agape love, noetic light, and you're supposed to be greeting the baby with that love, supposed to be receiving the baby, expecting a baby, you're welcoming the baby into this world in this sort of a spirit of love and agape love, and it's anything, nothing but goodness and positive energy and agape love. And instead, folks, she's plotting to kill her baby because it was not a convenient thing. And based on what I'm watching on the news, and I know I should not be watching the news as much as I'm telling you not to watch the news. I should probably limit but today, these young girls who give birth at 14, they leave their babies in bathrooms, folks. They just toss them. They don't even know, like, they just toss them into trash cans that are sitting inside bathrooms. Folks, bathrooms, if you're in Europe and somewhere, other parts of the world, bathroom, I mean water closets, restrooms, or water closets, just in case. I don't mean bathrooms, I mean bathrooms, like public toilets. There you go. Maybe in France, I think they call them toilets. Well, you get what I'm saying, in public restrooms. Yeah, bathrooms is a little bit regional, so just in case, I had to clarify. They're not meeting them in bathrooms, but they're meeting them in public restrooms, leaving them babies. Their babies are born, just like pop them out, and just leave them in a public restroom, water closets, whatever. You get the point. Inside the trash cans, the trash bins, folks, some of them try to flush them down the toilet, flush them down. They try to. It doesn't go through. They don't know this. Folks, this is the times. These are the end times that we live in. The times of Noah. Just in case, if you read the Bible, you know what times of Noah were, what it means. If you don't know what that means the devil rules the world through his demons. Where they take drugs, they smoke whatever. I'm not even, folks, I mean, like smoking cigarettes. It's like, my God, that's like nothing. They take all kinds of drugs, they make babies, and then they try to flush them down the public toilets, folks, by the millions every year. Again, the leaders in this killing baby machine industry, two countries, so the United States, numero uno, and then after that was the Soviet Union, who actually introduced abortion. They legalized abortion for the first time in the world of the history of the sort of modern age. In the Soviet Union, Soviet women were allowed in all 15 Soviet republics to discard the babies because they didn't want to. And so that became like a, like that, what I'm doing here is what I meant to say is like a snap. That's what the sound is, if you're wondering. It's like no big deal. It's like they don't want a baby, boom. It's like you abort the baby just anywhere, folks. It's like ridiculous. And it's happening today. Right now, I'm watching it, global news. And so that's the spirit of Beelzebub or Marduk or Baal. These are some of the names of, and Yahweh. These are the names, some of the gods of the Levantine period from 3,000 years ago, folks. These are desert gods, folks. Desert gods, meaning they ruled the people, they ruled the minds. They're like what, according to Zoroaster, they're not the real God. The only one God is the one who created us all. And if he created us all, look at the trees, folks. Look at the animals. Look at all that beauty. Do you think some evil might come out of it? No. That's what the point, the whole message of Jesus the Christ on this planet was this. He pointed to the creator of the universe, one and only, and he wanted to emphasize there were many, 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 many so-called demigods or gods or, like demons who pretend to be gods in other, whatever, in a global scale. So you could have a demon of abortion. You could be worshiping demon of smoking. You could be worshiping the demon of cigarettes or drugs. You could be worshiping the demons of sexual pleasure. There are such demons, folks. Each of them have their own characteristics and they occupy their space. It's a hierarchy. You could have the demons of theft. You could literally, you have demons of the actual demons who start fights. There are many men who like to start fights. And those are demon-controlled men. Not a single normal human being would want to start a fight for no reason at all. But there are men like that. Those are demon-stirred activities. There are demons who are in charge of lying. There are demons who are in charge of petty theft. There are demons who are in charge of, like, folks, you name it. Lusting. There are demons in charge of, let's say, if you're addicted to food, like you just can't stop stuffing yourself. That's demonic. The demons who keep you there's unfortunately, I even have some of my family members. I'm sharing this with you without naming who they are, but folks who are green with envy or something good that you want to share with them, they just become so green, it's unbelievable. Unfortunately, I have with someone within my family who is like that, and he turns like unbelievably not himself whenever there's something that sort of tells a story about something good that happened to another person, and that person handled it better than whatever's in his life, and he can't handle it, folks. He becomes green with envy. He's not himself, folks. That's demon possession 101. You might be saying, what the hell? Yes, folks. Envy and greed and envy and jealousy. Mostly envy. If you're envious of anything, folks, you need to really seriously work on that part of your personality. So, for example, if you, so many people who now need therapy, like animal therapy, that we used in our video, that lengthy video I mentioned, animal therapy with foxes, for example. So if you like animals, you might enjoy watching the Animal Planet. You just go on YouTube, 4K resolution, even they have videos in 8K resolution. So if you have a modern PC, it would be even better, like OLED screen and HDR video. You have to use Edge. That's the type of browser. It does the proper rendering of HDR video resolution. It's a totally different planet, folks. A totally different world. Much more realistic. So if you have that technology, use it. 4K resolution, HDR, OLED screen. Go on YouTube and just type in the Animal Planet. And pick some of those fluffy animals, the cute animals, the birds chirping, folks. So beautiful. And just if you watch it for 5 minutes, you'll be a new person, especially if you're being stressed out. That's not demonic. That's healthy. This is the creation of the one and only God, the creator of the universe. But the rest, folks, doesn't come from him. The rest is from these other, what Zoroaster called, he classified them as evil spirits. That was his little classification. He said that we should not be trusting them because there's only one creator and the rest are all usually not so friendly to us. And then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is part 2 probably. I'm going to share it with you later. But once we get on this path of spiritual awakening, we'll be able to intuitively synchronize with the creator of the universe by being on his frequency, by being on the frequency of God. This is the key phrase in our video, to experience the frequency of God. This is when you are born again. In fact, this is what Jesus emphasized. When Nicodemus came to Jesus, this is a remarkable story. Nicodemus had a beautiful, kind heart, and he was just as wealthy and godly. Wealthy and godly. This is a rare, rare, rare combination, folks. Normally, if you have money, it's very difficult to combine this sort of be, pro-God and sort of like be indifferent towards money, folks. It's very, very difficult. But Nicodemus was such a rare, rare individual. He had a beautiful, sparkling soul and personality, and he would love to come and listen to Jesus all the time. But he had to hang out at a distance because he could not be seen. Folks, he could not be seen with Jesus because Jesus was part of that third fraction of the Essenes. And Nicodemus was part of the different fractions that he could not even come close during the daylight. Everybody would say, what are you doing with him? It's a serious dangerous political move for Nicodemus. I know I'm talking politics here, but this is the reality, folks. Even today, it's so. Just like that. So anyway, Nicodemus loved to come and see Jesus and listen to his, when Jesus preached to the crowds, and he would take mental notes. He just knew that Jesus was from God, because how could he do all those miracles if God was not with him? And just the Spirit of God was emanating through Jesus, this pure noetic light. Nothing, folks, nothing but purity and love agape love came from Jesus's eyes, nonstop. And so Nicodemus was on the receiving end. He was able to decipher that, identify, to see there was a visitation. He says, I'm going to hang out with this particular rabbi. Folks, the word rabbi simply means teacher. That's all that means in Hebrew, okay? So I'm going to hang out with this teacher, spiritual teacher. And so one day at night, when Jesus was preaching constantly, folks, he was surrounded by crowds 24/7. I'm not even sure if he slept even had a chance to sleep. But anyway, night and day, morning to dawn, all the time he was surrounded by people who just wanted to hear. And Jesus gave them and shared with them 24/7, nonstop. Food did not matter. Sleep did not matter. He was going nonstop, folks, 24/7. Okay. During such one of these nights out usually, folks, they sometimes had to gather like in the forest and the woods, and like they had a bonfire to keep them warm. And Jesus would share with them the secrets of the kingdom of God. So Nicodemus came at night, so nobody would recognize him. He had to cover something way over his head so that he won't be recognized as Nicodemus. Of course, Jesus immediately recognized him. It's just like, he said, Nicodemus, did you have to come at night to visit me? And Nicodemus, of course, he wanted to project an answer. Jesus was fully telepathic. He knew that he could not be seen. It was a political suicide if Nicodemus were to be seen with Jesus at the daytime. So he said, he just gestured saying, but Rabbi, you know all things. Teacher, you understand my position. I love to be with you, but I cannot be seen with you. But I love to ask you a question. And this is where Jesus the Bible says he loved him. Just like he loved that young man, the young wealthy man who came to him. He wanted to inherit the eternal life. And Jesus said, there's one thing you're lacking. He loved him, which means, folks, at that time, in that region of the world, let me translate that phrase. Today, many people don't know what that means, but he loved him means he hugged him in a very, very family-like manner. There was nothing inappropriate. He simply hugged him in a very special way. He hugged him and he said, there's one thing you're lacking. Why don't you go sell everything you have and come and follow me? This is what he said to the young, wealthy young man. To Nicodemus, he said almost the same thing. So to Nicodemus, he had to say almost verbatim, but not quite. He said, so he waited until night to come to me? And Nicodemus said, well, it's my situation here, very sensitive situation. And she says, I know. And so he loved him at that point, the Bible says. He hugged him in a very family-like manner. He hugged Nicodemus in a very, very respectful, family-like way. And he said, Nicodemus, there's one thing you need to experience. And he said, what, teacher? What? Tell me. He says, you need to be born again. Born again, he said. Yes, you need to be born again. But how could I be born again? I'm already an old man, practically. You see, remember that language communication barrier, folks. Even though Jesus was just the my God, you had to be blind and deaf not to understand what he was saying. We might think today, but people were so dull at that time. Plus the language limitation. They only had about 250 words to describe the world, folks. They were very limited. So unless you were like, King Herod, who had specialized education, folks, they did not even know how to write or read. That was just very, very basic at that time. So long story short, 250 words. And even Nicodemus, a relatively well-educated person, could not understand what that means. They couldn't grasp the meaning of the words of Jesus. They were very, very limited in their understanding. Very limited, folks. They literally were like, today we would call them little children in terms of their intellectual capacity. They didn't know anything, folks. Like very little. And they were very superstitious about everything. So back to my story here, folks. Nicodemus came to Jesus, and he really, really was just a big fan of Jesus. He loved Jesus and he wanted to learn more, but he couldn't always understand what Jesus meant. And Jesus spoke these simplest parables and they still couldn't grasp his eternal meaning of the agape love and the noetic light that Jesus brought to this crazy world we live in. And so Jesus loved him and he said, Nicodemus, you are a respected elder of the Jews here, and you don't understand my language. He says, no, teacher, please explain it to me. And he said, when you look up in the sky and you see the storm is coming, you know it will rain. It's about to rain. When you hear the wind blowing, you don't see it, and yet you feel the motion of, the foliage moving, the foliage of the trees is moving, so you see its effect. So is with everyone who is born of the Spirit. When you're born again, you'll have access to all this information. You'll be on the frequency of God, so to speak, folks. I'm living here my own terminology. The frequency of God, Jesus didn't use that terminology. They didn't know what a frequency, didn't know what frequency was at that time. And so Jesus told Nicodemus, he said, you must be born again. You must be born of the Spirit. For everyone who is born of the flesh is flesh. Everyone who is born of the Spirit is spirit. Folks, this is what we're actually taking it to the next level. This instant awakening and this noetic light and the agape love is essentially encapsulating everything that Jesus had said 2,000 years ago to Nicodemus and thousands of other people around him. But they couldn't grasp it, folks. And today, with this technology that we're using today, only for good, of course, this live streaming and everything I'm sharing with you, this is how it's done. So that no matter where you are around the world, across the world, you could be in the United States, you could be in Armenia, you could be in Georgia, you could be in Uzbekistan, you could be in Kazakhstan, you could be in Turkmenistan, you could be in Finland, you could be in Latvia, you could be in Estonia, you could be in Norway, you could be in Iceland, you could be in Australia, you could be in Bahrain, you could be in UAE, you could be in Iran. That's the proper pronunciation, folks. Remember, it's not Iran, it's Iran. Iran is a type of drink in Central Asia. You could be in Iran. You could be in Sudan. You could be in Zimbabwe. You could be in Poland. You could be in which used to be called Czechoslovakia. You could be in what used to be called Yugoslavia. You could be in any country, folks, and still hear my voice and understand this, because you will be touched by God himself. I'm only a tool in his hands. Essentially, he's using my vocal cords to project this message using modern technology, so you could hear it. But this message is the same as Jesus's message 2,000 years ago to Nicodemus, except now we have this new technology that is being used. That's the way I would like to describe myself as. Merely as I'm God's tool in his hands. That's all. I'm only his tool, and I'm praying daily to have humility, to have more humility every day, because the more you are engaged in this kind of spiritual activity, the more humility and meekness you need, so it doesn't puff you up. And that's what I pray to God, and I suggest you do the same, folks. Even you might be a very humble person, pray for humility and wisdom. That's all we need to pray. The rest will be added onto us, folks. This is the truth. We don't need to worry about money. We don't need to worry about anything. God will provide. I promise you that. You just need to have faith. And this is the methodology by which we live here. And we're going to share it with you. God will provide. You just need to be on the frequency of God, and all those things will be taken care of. We just need to be concerned about what Jesus called the kingdom of God. And the rest of these things, material things, will be added on to us. Look at the birds, folks. They don't do any work in the fields, and yet God feeds them. Look at the lilies of the field, folks. Today they're here, tomorrow they're thrown into the oven, as they say, right? As Jesus said. It's all for the glory of God. We're all part of it. There's only one God, and the rest of them are the rest of the so-called, deities. Usually, most of them mean us harm. They're not good. You could tell once you're on that frequency, you could tell which is which. God sends us, yes, he does send us the good spirits, the heavenly messengers. And they're here to protect us. Remember that story I told you? When I was 8 years old, I was coming down the stairs and I was saved. My life was saved. I heard a voice in my head that said my name and don't go there. It's loud and clear, crystal clear. Most bizarre voice I've ever heard in my life. So clear. It's like you couldn't get a clearer voice than that. It's like so clear. It's like it wasn't a man, it wasn't a woman. That's the thing, folks. It was not a man's voice. It was not a woman's voice for sure. It was something else. But I can't describe it. But it's crystal clear. Anyway, that angel saved my life. And I'm sharing it with you right now so that you know such occurrences happen to you and your family members, to your children daily, every minute, every second of the day, non-stop. We just don't pay enough attention to recognize them, that there's a visitation from the other realm. And by being on the frequency of God, by seeing the noetic light, by emanating agape love towards other people, you'll be able to be in that environment, if you will, in that ambiance. So you'll be sensitized enough to notice it constantly. You won't even think twice. Oh, you'll just sense it. You will sense it in your spirit. God will communicate to you through his spirit, folks. This was just an exception. I was just a little boy. That's why I heard the voice. It saved my life. So I can be sharing this with you today. Just for that reason, perhaps. But today, I no longer hear those voices. No. I sense it in my spirit. It's a spiritual communication. It's nonverbal. It's in your spirit, and you know it. It's not just a maybe. It's like, for sure, it's from God. It's because once we become one with God, in the spirit, of course, he leads us, he guides us, he gives us wisdom. He does. In a very tangible way, folks. Super tangible way. If you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. And so, money is an illusion. We never die, folks. We live forever. It's just a transition to the other side. We pray every hour on the hour, and we suggest you do the same. Every hour on the hour, that means we take maybe 3 to 5 minutes of our time every hour. So 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Every hour on the hour, we stop and pray for peace in the world, for our loved ones, and mostly for peace and humility and wisdom, but mostly for peace. So the angels of God will stop the angels of death. This is what's going on in the world right now. As you can see, the war in Iran, the war in the Middle East, the war in Lebanon. I mean, my God, in Africa, folks. Where are the eyes? Why are we seeing the genocide is happening right now in Africa? What happened to the Tutsis? I believe in Rwanda in 1994. Nobody stopped 800,000 Rwandans being killed within 5 months. Bill Clinton was there. He used a bunch of BS language, political nonsense. Nobody stopped that murder. They even came, folks. It's on tape. I watched it with my eyes. Western, maybe British military came to this one hospital to save someone, and the local population thought that they were coming to be saved. No, folks, they came to save one white woman. She was a doctor, and they grabbed her, and as soon as they started leaving, that European military, I don't know if it was British or French, in Rwanda, I don't remember. But in 1994, as soon as they grabbed this European doctor, white woman, European woman, out of the doctor, and they grabbed her, put her in the Jeep, and they started driving away, they heard the shots. So the local, whatever you call them, the majority started to kill and shoot and behead, sever heads of the minority, the Tutus. So the Hutus were killing the Tutus. I believe those are the names in 1994 Rwanda. And that was the beginning of that horrible, horrible genocide. So they did not even take, folks, they came and they thought they were coming for them. No, they just took one woman, put her on a Jeep, and that's it. After that, hell broke loose in Rwanda. Nobody stopped it, folks. So I'm trying to paint a picture. It's not just the Armenians. There were many other genocides that are happening relatively right now in Africa. It's the spirit of Beelzebub or demons that are doing this, folks. Very high-ranking demons. This cannot be done by human being, folks. When you see those eyes of those people who want to decapitate you, who want to kill your family, and they're actually given power to do so, this is the angelic demonic realm, folks. And we must pray during those times. This is why I highly recommend to all the Christians around the world, and non-Christians also, to all the Muslims, to all non-Muslims, to all spiritual people, to pray every hour on the hour, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, around the clock, while you're awake. Every hour on the hour, pray for peace, wisdom, and humility. Pray for peace in the world, in the hot zones, hot spots, such as Ukraine, Russia, Lebanon, Israel, at this point, at the moment of this recording. These are the hot spots. You know, Iran, Sudan. Why aren't these African countries even discussed in the West, folks? Nobody talks about the African wars. Folks, there are 48 military conflicts going on in the world today at this point, concurrently, at the same time. Nobody talks about it except for the war in Iran, and that's it. And the war in Ukraine is no longer a thing. You know, it's like maybe occasionally they'll mention something. The point is, folks, it's like a show for the demons and the angels. And we must pray, because every war is caused, instigated by a very powerful, dark, fallen angel, evil spirit. They're just different hierarchies of them. So these are the spiritual kind of points, folks. And we should be happy with just a stick of butter and some crackers on our plates. If we're happy, we're going to remain happy, folks. Money helps. Yes, it gives us money gives us opportunities. Yes, it gives us something. But the true happiness, folks, happiness comes from within. I'm just speaking from the heart. So if you know God, if you know agape love, if you are awoken, spiritually speaking, you have no connection to money. You know money is an illusion. And money is given to you, because remember, if you're walking with God, He will provide. Everything will be there for you. And it is there. And even if you have just a stick of butter and some crackers on your plate on a daily basis, you'll still be happy. I promise you that this is not a metaphor. I'm not trying to be cute here with this crackers and butter. I'm just saying, You will be happy if you're happy. You can't, if you're truly happy, you are happy not because you have money, folks. You're happy because of something else. And this is the whole point of our awakening. Ambulance, folks. I just wanted to mention, every time you hear an ambulance pass by, when you hear an ambulance passing by, just pray immediately to God and ask God to dispatch his angels, so the angels will go and help save that person. And you will receive your rewards in heaven, because this is how our universe works. Many people don't know this, but every time we pray for someone, if we truly believe, it will be so. Our prayers will be answered. If you hear an ambulance, pray for that person in distress. Pray God to send him his angels, and that angel will come and save that person. Maybe perhaps somebody was praying for me at that moment. Who knows? I don't know. When I was saved at the age of 8, remember, I was saved from that car accident, from that car that smashed into a light pole. So the point is, about animal therapy. So because of all the people who went through genocide, war, rape, abuse, sexual abuse, or any other form of abuse, any type of abuse, any type of extreme trauma, you need to go, if not a therapist, just watch what I was saying earlier. Watch some animals on YouTube. It will help you tremendously. It will change your brain chemistry. Just 5 to 10 minutes on YouTube. But preferably you go outside, you walk in the nature, you get some vitamin D, drink only filtered water that you have prayed over in the morning. Try to get up before sun rises, so you can say your prayers and meditation, do your meditation over your glass of water. Never drink water from a plastic jar, only made out of glass. Keep it covered in a refrigerator with a few slices of lemon, because lemon has antiseptic properties. And in the morning, you start your day with your agape meditation to God. Before anybody gets up, before you walk your dog, before you turn on your news, before you turn on your phones, before anything, while it's still dark. You just find yourself in that dimly lit house or apartment, to your kitchen. If you don't have your prayer room, it could be a kitchen. You have your designated spot where you just dimly lit lights, folks, dimly lit kitchen. In the kitchen, you just say your prayers. You pull out your glass of water. You let it warm up for about 20 minutes. It's not good to drink cold water. A few slices of lemon were marinating in that glass jar in a refrigerator. That's good. You'll be drinking and you will be energizing your water. This is a 3,000-year-old ancient ritual. It will help you immediately solve most of your problems. You live to be 150 minimum. And no. Benefits are endless. And somebody, by the way, our supercomputers have identified a gene in our human DNA that was altered to limit our lifespan to be exactly 120 years old, folks. And we're going to change that. We're going to unlock it to live to be at least 150, then 250, 350, up to 950 years. That's the limit. But the gene was adjusted, folks. It's altered. Because we use supercomputers, folks, we are on a completely different level of understanding of the world. Different laws of physics, different technology that we use, different alternative propulsion systems. We don't use lithium-ion batteries. We haven't used lithium-ion batteries for over 35 years because they're dangerous, they're inefficient, ineffective. We use different forms of energy storing. We use different forms of propulsion. We use different forms of nanomaterials. And most importantly, folks, you see, I wanted to tell you that the Bible says knowledge will increase in the end times. Well, it is increasing for us. But if you're just mostly watching the news, I don't think it's increasing for you, folks. Why? Because, well, you have to focus your attention on proper things. And if you don't know how to do that, well, that simply means you are processing garbage. You're accepting garbage. Remember, Weltanschauung is an English term of German origin that means filtered worldview, the most objective worldview possible, most optimal. It's not garbage, it's your own filtered truth, if you will, filtered information, worldview. And so this is why we're trying to bring this, all of this knowledge to the Republic of Armenia, to unite 17 million Armenians. So we will rebuild a new country. We'll have a new country, robust, modern, very spiritual. The core foundation is our faith. Nothing else, folks. Nothing else. You can't build this without the faith. I mean, you can't. So, agape love, noetic light, instant awakening, our Christian faith, Jesus's message, which is misunderstood by many people. Most people don't even know what he was all about. But because of how overwhelmed we are, we need to spend more time in nature. If we can't, at least look at animals on YouTube. That will help you. Alf the fox that we featured in our video. Alfie the fox is a cute little fluffy fox that was saved by Alex and Victoria from being essentially utilized. They brought him from an animal breeder. And this animal breeder has hundreds and hundreds of cages of foxes that they breed for, believe it or not, fur coats. That's right. They just kill them make fur coats out of them. So Alfie the Fox, you can watch him on YouTube. He has over 100 million views, folks. Not bad for a fox. But he's so kind. He's so mostly kind, and he developed a language, a human language. He talks like a baby, folks. He responds like a human baby, like a parrot, like the birds who mimic the human speech. Well, that's what he talks like, folks. He talks like a little baby, and he talks to Victoria, and Victoria basically records him daily. And so there are millions of children that watch Alfie the Fox every single morning. And I believe it's much better than watching cartoons because, quite frankly, folks, cartoons are not that innocent. And I would rather that they watch Alfie the Fox with this innocent, the pure innocence, the creation of God, and kindness between Victoria and Alfie the Fox. And that teaches not even children, adults, what kindness is all about. It's not just about, feeding and petting your little, there's a lot more to that, folks. They saved his life, and now he has over 100 million views, folks. 100 million views. Yes, last time I checked, it was maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago, it was 102 million views or 120 million, some unbelievable number, folks. Why? Because people are lacking kindness today. There's not enough kindness, and they see that on their screens, and it calms their souls. It calms their spirits. It changes their brain chemistry. And that's why I recommend that you watch animals like Animal Planet on YouTube, or Alfie the Fox if you're into, just a particular, a single sort of a single animal therapist. I'm calling that. He could be a therapist, folks. He's truly something else. So on this note, I would like to slowly kind of mention that we're going to change Armenia in a big way. We're going to get reparations for the Armenian genocide. That was folks, it's painful for me to every time to bring it up, but genocide made the angels cry in heaven. I'd like to say it again. The Armenian genocide and many other genocides, they make angels of God cry in heaven. Even though they don't cry, it makes them cry. Because unless somebody intervenes, one person that will pray, and then the angels of God, God will dispatch his angels and they will be engaged. Folks, but someone must ask for it. That's the secret of this universe. That's why I urge you to pray every time you hear an ambulance pass by. Pray for that person in distress so that the angels of God will be dispatched, and so they will assist that person in need. And it will be so. We're going to bring lots of religious tourists, spiritual tourists, not just Christians, mostly Christians, but Muslims and people of other faith to Armenia. We're going to bring them to Armenia to show them the Echmiadzin Cathedral that is over 1,700 years old. We're going to tell them about our history. We're going to tell them about genocide. We're going to tell them about how we accepted Christianity as the first country, folks. The capital city of Armenia, Yerevan, is older than Rome, folks. Older than Rome. You could check it out online if you wish, but the point is, it's an ancient city. And now we have a 12,000-year-old circular settlement that was discovered by Dr. Hakop Simonyan, just outside of Yerevan, that marks it as sort of the oldest known human settlement on Earth. And they were not Armenians. No, folks. They were they were proto-Armenians. We don't know who they were. They were just people with some tools like obsidian arrow points and obsidian skin scrapers, stuff like that. The point is, history is here. Religion is here. First Christian nation is here in Armenia. Mount Ararat is visible from many places in Armenia, from Yerevan in particular. Mount Ararat is our spiritual inheritance. This is where Papa Noah, that's what we call him, Papa Noah, descended from Mount Ararat after his ark rested on the slopes of Mount Ararat. And it is written in the on our website, folks. Dr. Finkel actually discovered it, and he translated from Sumerian language. The kingdom of Urartu is in Sumerian, it means the land of Ararat or Armenia, also including the Ararat Mountains. And so on this world's oldest map of the world that you see on our front page, go to www.myarmenianfamily.com. You can watch that video with Dr. Finkel. Front page, can't miss it. You'll see that world's oldest map with Sumerian cuneiform characters, the description of the known world, including the kingdom of Urartu, which is modern-day Armenia, which is, by the way, Armenia is just north of Mesopotamia, just north, and that's where it is on the map. And so it says, if you go, there's a story on the back side of this map. It says if you gonna travel on this river, and we know it today as the Euphrates River, all the way north, you'll get to a mountainous country. When you climb, when you go up the mountains, you'll see a boat, folks, a boat, where the name was not Noah, but they had a different name, folks. A name was given by for the man who was saved from the great flood, folks. So this predates the Old Testament, predates the Hebrew Bible. This story, and of course, if you know the Epic of Gilgamesh, it considerably predates the written biblical text. Same story. A man was saved by God from the great flood on a boat that landed on mountains, and this is what we know today as Mount Ararat. And you can see that if you're seeing this logo, folks, in the middle between the two lines on our logo, Unified Armenia, you see Mount Ararat. And this is on the eastern slope. This is where Noah's Ark is. We're going to take you there. It's really a very special trip. And to see it is truly a blessing. You'll have tears in your eyes for 40 days and 40 nights afterwards once you see it. We have to catch the weather just right. Yeah, it can only be done at a certain days in July, just because weather is very finicky up there. It changes from sunny days to negative 40 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit. That's where they meet. Wind gusts up to 150 miles an hour. And when it rains, folks, up there, Mount Ararat, my God, it's the scariest part. The lightning bolts hitting the mountain, the slopes, every few seconds. So you literally, between your legs, you're being hit by lightning bolts. And you can see it, and it's scary, and it's loud. It's so loud that it's deafening, folks. It's deafening, and it's scary, and it's like it changes from on a dime, folks. It's like sunny day, and it's like cloudy, and then boom, it begins to rain and thunderstorm, these thunderclaps, and these lightning bolts hitting the mountain. It's really, really something. For you. It's not for the faint of heart. It's really scary. And this is why perhaps you're not supposed to be there unless you would be allowed to be there. It's a very special, you have to be really a special person for us to take you up there. Because it's not, you can't just go up there and on a sunny day photograph Noah's Ark. No, it's so moving. It's a different dimension. Remember we talked about angels, why we cannot see them, because they are multi-dimensional beings. Our universe is multi-dimensional. We only see 3 dimensions out of hundreds and hundreds of dimensions. So there's something going on Mount Ararat that is beyond our physical vision that we could register with our eyes. There's some kind of portals and into other dimensions. Some kind of activity, folks. One last thing I'll mention, similar to the, if you know, the Skinwalker Ranch in the state of Utah was finally bought out by Bob Bigelow. Robert Bigelow bought out the ranch. He's paid millions of dollars for it. He paid millions of dollars to scientists to bring the most sophisticated piece of equipment to record those anomalies. And they have recorded a 4K resolution. You can see it on YouTube. That they finally captured the stargates, the portals to the other dimension, open up and some sort of beings being teleported into our dimension. But in the physical world, you cannot see it, folks. It's just a night sky. Cannot see it. Special equipment, very specialized. Millions and millions of dollars is spent on that equipment, on those scientists. They're constantly there, folks. They keep recording those events. But in the real world, this is what it felt like to human beings who used to live there without any equipment, like regular ranchers. It's a farm, folks. It's a ranch. So on Skinwalker Ranch, which, by the way, is translated from the local Indian language, the American Indian language, the Skinwalker simply means those demons, otherworldly beings that take the human shape sometimes. So what was recorded is this. So I already told you, portals, these sort of hazy beings that look like God knows what. But it's recorded in 4K resolution, folks. Super sensitive equipment. Not your regular cameras. No, there's no DSLR cameras. Some kind of infrared cameras of special caliber. They're used in astronomy. But anyway, that's what they recorded on Skinwalker Ranch in the U.S. state of Utah. You can watch it on YouTube. And just to give you, to complete this story, what it felt like to the ordinary people who are not scientists, who are just, tough ranchers, farmers. You don't scare them easily. They don't get scared easily. So they had these large, on the ranch, if you have animals, you have cattle, you got to have a dog or 2 or 3 or 4, something like that, to help you with your cattle. So I had these large, massive dogs on that ranch. I mean, previous owners, all ranchers have some kind of special breed of, special dog breed that, basically take care of keep their cattle safe. Point understood, I hope. Super strong. They're fearless. You cannot go. It's like a 200-pound dog, folks. You can't do anything to it. And then usually they're pretty passive. They're not going to attack you. They kind of know. They know if you came there to do some harm to the cattle or to the family, they will tear you to pieces, folks. They're not afraid of anything. Those dogs are remarkable. Just there's some kind of unspoken communication. They guard the property, the farm, the family, and the cattle silently. And they know when to get engaged. They don't just, folks, when they begin to bark, that means there's serious problem on that range. So anyway, this is what's been recorded. Quick story. This one family bought the farm something like in the 1950s, and weird stuff began to happen on the Skinwalker Ranch. So first of all, they would get scared out of nowhere. There's like this fear would come upon them for no reason whatsoever at night. So they would begin to close the windows, close their drapes, close everything, lock the doors, everything, and just have, the weapons armed, the rifles armed. There's a just extreme sense of fear and anxiety, just for no reason. All of them at the same time, folks, at the same time. Bizarre, right? And then all of a sudden, their dog, folks, their fearless dog would begin to yelp, whimper like a little puppy. Like a little tiny puppy, which is a 200-pound massive dog, folks. They've never seen their dogs being so scared. And all of a sudden, folks, this dog which is very well trained, he doesn't like run around for no reason. He would just take off and run towards somewhere into the darkness, folks. And then they would find their dog the next morning up on the tree, on the tallest tree, completely what's the word? There was no blood found in their dog. All the genitals were removed. It was in a weird position. And somehow it was just like at the tallest branch of a tree, folks. Nobody could get up that high, and especially get up that 200-pound dog on that branch, folks. Something supernatural did it. Something outside of this planet. But it was real because the dog was killed. And the cattle was found. If you just type in cattle mutilation, cattle was found by the hundreds mutilated. So these cows and bulls, folks, a 2,000-pound bull, they're found one day standing vertical with his genitals removed surgically. No blood, also no blood. There's no blood found in the system. Eyes removed and the tongue removed. And who would do such a thing, folks? I mean, it's impossible. And most importantly, folks, when it happens in the wintertime, there are no footprints around the animal. So like the farmers, folks, they're pretty, I guess, smart folk. They know how to sort of trace like who was it. Like they know if it's another animal. Folks, no footprints around the animal. Like they saw their footprints, it's fresh snow, like they got to that site, they saw their animal killed, completely like deformed, without a drop of blood, folks, in a weird position, like steady. Usually they're like, they're found in a weird position without any blood, with genitals removed, with their tongues removed, and it's removed surgically, folks. It's not like some crude way, like if you had a scalpel and you were doing this precision surgery at removing those organs, and not a drop of blood, folks. Which is, we can't do that without modern equipment like that. Somehow the blood was sucked out. And it's like, it was standing there, this weird position. And so this farmer was just saying, he knew right away it was something weird, because no animal could do such a thing. There's no, it was done with some technological means. Number one. Number two, no footprints, folks. Something that came as if either from above or from a different dimension. That's your skinwalker range, folks. Look it up, cattle mutilation, folks. You'll be amazed. So this is why that skinwalker range was considered to be kind of like an evil spot, cursed or whatever, where demons run loose. But that's what happened to all those people who used to own that ranch, and they would live there. They would get scared, and now nobody wants to live there, folks. Of course, that's why Bob Bigelow bought the ranch, and he brought in all those full-time scientists who live there, and they record this data as we speak right now. They never stop their recordings, and they constantly find something, new findings. Anyway, this is the realm of the demons. I'm just telling you right now, they're being recorded on scientific equipment. It's no longer a myth. This is not a old wives' tales. They have 4K footage that I saw with my own eyes on YouTube. You could do the same. You can watch it on YouTube. You'll see it. You'll see all those stories. You'll see. This is not stories, folks. These are documentaries. These are documentary videos about the Skinwalker Ranch. And so demons are real. That's my message to you. Jesus wanted to emphasize that demons are real. And that's basically the message of the day. So it was a 3-hour long live stream. I'm going to try to wrap it up. I said it all. We're trying to make Armenia into the safest country in the world. We're going to create jobs. We're going to improve the economy using LKY's method used in Singapore, where within 23 years it became a local, a regional financial center. We're going to do the same with Armenia. We're going to stop and reverse the brain drain. We're going to end corruption with very robust anti-corruption campaigns, similar to what LKY implemented in Singapore. Remember when he would send people to jail? No, basically you get caught, there's no pardon. You cannot be pardoned. You get caught with anything. And in Singapore today, folks, if you toss a piece of litter on the ground, you get a $5,000 fine. So that's why chewing gum, folks, is illegal. You cannot chew gum in Singapore. It's just not allowed. And they keep the country very clean, folks. It's remarkable. I mean, it's a bit too tight, but I mean, we could implement most of it in Armenia. Education, we're going to bring the global leaders, Armenian American diplomats and scientists. We're going to bring them to Armenia. Reparations, we're going to get $1.8 trillion from Turkey, whether we get it or not. We're going to pursue hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits against the Republic of Turkey and all those parties involved, large corporate entities, heirs, people, descendants of those people who were involved. And we're going to do a lot of stirring. People in Turkey will be doing a lot of soul searching because of this activity. Armenian private bank will introduce riba-free loans or interest-free loans, which is going to be revolutionary. They won't be paying any interest. We're going to be giving these loans to anyone in the Republic of Armenia. We're going to boost the demographics of the Armenian people inside the Republic of Armenia. So anyone, any baby being born, they'll get $3,000 for every baby being born inside the Republic of Armenia, on the territory of the Republic of Armenia. Not somewhere in Argentina, but in the Republic of Armenia. So folks, if you want to make babies, you move to Armenia, we'll help you. If you are a scientist, if you're an engineer, if you're a business entrepreneur who could contribute to the well-being of Armenia, we'll help you move to Armenia. We'll help you find a job, a well-paying job. We'll get you a house. We'll get you a condominium. We'll get you an apartment. We'll get you an SUV or a car, whatever you wish. As long as you can improve the well-being of the people of the Republic of Armenia, folks. That's the most important thing. So on this note, what I want to say is I believe we discussed everything. I hope you could hear this impromptu live stream. I was going to announce the recognition of the Armenian genocide by the state of Israel. It's more or less pretty much in the bag. It's done. They're going to just have to vote on it. The rest is all, I mean, it would be really such a disaster if for some reason it doesn't get passed, right? Like a double embarrassment for their system, right? They haven't acknowledged it for so many years now. They try to acknowledge it and it doesn't pass for whatever reason. Now it's going to be really, they're going to lose faith, folks. Lose face. They're going to lose the reputation of anything that there'll be like a, I mean, it would be really bad if it doesn't pass. It's about to get passed, folks, in the Knesset. So anyway, so on this note, folks, we love you very much here. With agape love, of course, which is the highest form of divine, unconditional love of God that unites us all into one big spiritual family. The Armenians, the Christians, and we want to introduce Armenia and reintegrate it into the global Christian family. This is why we have these transparent live streams. Hopefully you can see it once again. We'll know here in a minute if you have the audio, good audio, and if you have any kind of video of me or the at least the logo, folks, Unified Armenia with our website, myarmenianfamily.com. So if you're interested in moving to Armenia, go to our website. Whether you're Armenian or not, doesn't matter. If you're not Armenian, but you can contribute to the well-being of Armenia, we're going to help you get settled in Armenia. Contact us. Our team will respond very promptly. We'll help you find a $5,000 a month job, an apartment, a house, whatever you prefer, a condominium, whatever you wish, an SUV, a car, whatever you wish. And also we're going to, if you want, we're building Noah's Ark Eco Village. We're building other eco villages in the Republic of Armenia. And they're going to be themed by sort of the world region. For example, for our Lebanese Armenians from the country of Lebanon who grew up, in the kind of a Arabic-speaking environment, we're going to have Lebanese Armenian eco villages. For the French Armenians, we're going to have French Armenian eco villages, where they'll be used to it. Everything is just like in France, except inside Armenia. The language, the writing, everything will be just so that they'll be most comfortable at giving back to the Republic of Armenia. And that way you can speak French all day long you want with your neighbors, etc., etc. Your clubhouse, everything will be just like you're in France. You haven't left France, if that's what you prefer. And that's what we would encourage you to kind of pursue, because it will make your life a lot easier. You can't just sort of like come to the Republic of Armenia and mingle with the Soviet Armenians. It's a different mentality, different outlook on life, different habits, different superstitions, different linguistic so we're going to create enclaves for different Armenians. And that way, if you're from Paris, you could all day long say, "Je suis parisien." It's all day long, folks, if you want. Je suis parisien all day long, 24/7, nonstop. You could be just walking around and speaking French if you wish. If you're from the United States, from Canada, we'll have your North American enclave, where you'll be surrounded by English-speaking Armenians that will have this sort of a North American accent. For the British Armenians, from Armenians from the United Kingdom, we're going to have their own enclave. Yes, we're going to separate them. It's not folks, it's not just a language barrier, it's where they grew up. It's not just a matter of saying, get in the truck versus get in the lorry, or, pop the hood or open the bonnet. It's not a matter of these different words, British versus American. No, it's a matter of, it's a cultural difference. And we're trying to create this environment that will be most conducive for you to be most productive in the Republic of Armenia, for the benefit of the Republic of Armenia, for the benefit of the people of the Republic of Armenia. That's why we're thinking about placing everyone in their own enclaves based on the country of origin. So if you grew up in the United Kingdom, we're going to put you into a English-speaking, English, British meaning enclave. For Armenians from the UK. For Canadians, Canadian Armenians. For, let's say, Spanish Armenians, yes, we're going to put you in a Spanish-speaking quarters or Spanish-speaking enclave, eco-village. Or Spanish-speaking Armenians, I mean. So, and on and on and on and on. I mean, we have Armenians that just, Turkish Armenians, yes, folks, nobody really talks about it. I don't know why. There are 450,000 genuinely good professional Turkish people who know they're of Armenian descent, but they can't admit it in Turkey. They would love to kind of be reintegrated. Well, we're going to think about that, how we're going to introduce how it's even going to be workable to help them, how to help bring, some of those who want to come from Turkey, from the Republic of Turkey, or Armenian by descent, by blood, by DNA, but they're the descendants of the victims of genocide, or the survivors of genocide, I should say. Well, and the victims too. But the point is, to integrate them in Armenia will be rather, obviously we're going to have their own enclave. Obviously they're going to have to speak their own, obviously, Turkish language, but we're going to have some kind of a robust campaign. We're going to do that, folks, but we're going to decide on how we're going to introduce them into the Armenian lifestyle. It's going to be slowly introduced into the Armenian, into the lifestyle of Armenia. So, and of course, obviously, they have to, besides Turkish, they might want to start learning English, because that would be their only gateway, because most of them don't speak Armenian and they only speak Turkish. And so Turkish, it's like, well, it's going to be kind of limited. They would be limited in Armenia, quite limited. So anyway, folks, we're going to make it happen. There's just a lot of Armenians who are scattered around the world. We're going to bring them all back, but we are targeting 3 million Armenians to be immediately moved. I mean, immediately meaning as soon as possible. Not immediately, but we're going to target scientists, engineers, business entrepreneurs, mathematicians, IT specialists, to bring them immediately to the Republic of Armenia. This will be a high target. Like I mentioned, Dr. Aganov is a crystallographer. Right now he heads the Skolkovo Institute Innovation Center, the Department of Nanomaterials and Crystallography. He's a crystallographer by education, and we're trying to, bring people like him, because he creates new materials that defy the laws of physics. We cannot even describe it, because he works in that nanomaterial. His expertise in creating new nanomaterials. So Dr. Panosian is a legendary engineer who used to work for for Boeing and NASA. He would work on the literally rocket engines, making sure that the American astronauts would get into the orbit safely and of course return safely. And that's Dr. Panosian. He's been going to the Republic of Armenia since 1987, folks. 1987, sometimes twice a year. Because he's an engineer, he's of scientific mindset. He would, of course, he would hang out mostly with a scientific community in Armenia, Ali Hanyan Institute of Physics, etc., etc., etc. So he kept that community alive during the dark times when the Soviet Union collapsed, when they didn't have electricity, when they didn't have natural gas, when they didn't have running water. It was a horrible time, but he was there for them, folks. Dr. Panosian I'm eternally grateful for everything you've done for the people of Armenia. May God richly bless you and your wonderful family. May you find nothing but kindness from people around you, and especially from all the Armenians you meet. What you've done is absolutely remarkable. Another person I'd like to mention, his name is Andrei Gumudjan. Andrei came from Belgium, so he never been to Armenia. His native language is French. And so he came to Armenia a few years ago. He noticed that he is Armenian, of course, but he wasn't really, active in the community, so to speak, until his arrival to Armenia. So Andre is a business entrepreneur. He owns some businesses in Belgium, and he came to Armenia, and he noticed that the planting of the trees has not been done. It's a big problem. It's an issue. There's a lack of trees in Armenia. In other words, it's a dry, kind of an arid land, kind of like San Diego. If you've been to San Diego on the border with Tijuana and San Diego is like the deserty, like kind of sort of like Armenian landscape by the border with Turkey. But as you go north into northern Armenia has got green, very luscious green meadows and forests. But southern Armenia is like San Diego border with Tijuana, Mexico. So anyway, so it's lack of trees, long story short. So Andre started his nonprofit. It's called myarmenianforest.com. You could check it out. And they, for the last 3 years, folks, this is remarkable. They've been planting 900,000 trees. That's right, 900,000 trees. And they're just starting, folks. He's got a small crew of about 20 people that work with him or for him. Or so, or maybe he has some seasonal workers. But anyway, so it's 20 plus seasonal workers, and then 900,000 trees they plant every year, folks. And he said they plan to be over $1 million trees next year. So they'll start planting over 1 million trees starting next year. So that's phenomenal. So Andre John, I'm for everything you do. I'm eternally grateful for you for what you are doing for Armenia, for the people of Armenia, for the Republic of Armenia, for the country of Armenia. I mean, my God, that's some dedication. And I'm sharing this with all the Armenians out there. You could be doing this too. Andre didn't have to come. He did. Andre didn't know if you could start a nonprofit, myarmenianforest.com. He didn't know, but he did. It's very successful. And he's very dedicated. But the point is, if you're dedicated, if you're a businessman, just reach out to us, folks. We're going to put you in touch. We're going to facilitate your move to Armenia. We're working as one big, gigantic family here. Next person. So Andre John, God bless you. May God richly bless you and your entire family for what you are doing, for what you've done, and what you're doing for Armenia. The next person is another business entrepreneur that has really hit the education sector of Armenia. His name is Sam Simonyan. And Sam created this sort of like a chain of these science centers for the Armenian youth, children and youth both. That's free to the public, but it's funded sort of internally with the Republic of Armenia, by the Republic of Armenia, etc., etc. So the point is, these are high-tech, latest and greatest high-tech sort of like these educational youth centers, science centers for the youth. And they go there and they're taught different skills, programming to video editing to music composing. Yes, folks, they're this is after school program, and this is Sam that he's done basically something like for the past 15 plus years they've been in operation. Hundreds of thousands of Armenian boys and girls were basically just their horizons were broadened because of Sam's vision, because of what Sam Simonyan brought to Armenia. I mean, this is like insanely useful for the youth of Armenia. So these are just examples, folks. There are thousands of examples, but I just want to say to our wonderful entrepreneur, Sam John, what you've done for the Armenian youth, God bless you. God bless you, my friend. What you're doing is just remarkable. May God richly bless you and your entire family. I always like to say, in these circumstances, in this case, I always say this: I'm Rakam. I'm eternally, eternally, eternally grateful to you for what you have done and what you continue to do for the youth of Armenia. God bless you. And the next person I'd like to mention, I'm going to wrap up, I promise you, is because we already I mentioned just a few examples here, folks. There are hundreds and hundreds of these folks, and just people that I would like to mention, but I can't. I'm just going to list one more, and that's it. I cannot not mention this man. His name is Dr. Zorian. Dr. Yervant Zorian is a phenomenally kind and super kind and just godly individual. But he's a scientist, folks. He's a scientist, and he moved from he's originally from Lebanon. And by the way, I believe Sam Simonian is also from Lebanon. Andrea mentioned Andrei Gumujan. He's from Belgium. Dr. Panosian is originally from Lebanon. It's mostly Lebanese Armenian, but anyway, Dr. Zorian is actually is the business of manufacturing microchips or designing microchips and manufacturing for Synopsys Corporation. And so he pulled all of his strings, and he brought the he opened up a branch of Synopsys Corporation in Armenia. So he runs it now in Yerevan. So he moved from California to Armenia, folks, just to share the knowledge, share the technology with the people of Armenia. And he is one of the largest employers in Armenia. I mean, his company, but he runs it. He is the most kind individual on the face of the earth, folks, despite what his grandparents went through during the periods of genocide, folks. He always has a smile on his face. And this is remarkable, folks. He is he has agape love within him. He's exuding noetic light and agape love from his body, from his soul, from his spirit, folks. That's Dr. Zorian. And you can, if you wish, you could just watch him on YouTube. If you want, but he's the most kind. He's one of the kindest Armenians I've ever met, folks. He's just a remarkable man, and he's doing so much for Armenia, folks. Just to give you an idea, he didn't just move the branch from the American company to Armenia, and he's now running one of the largest branches of the company in the Republic of Armenia. He's actually bringing individually key experts. He's bringing scientists, he's bringing dentists, he's bringing physicists, he's bringing mathematicians. Individually, he's inviting them of Armenian descent, of course. He brings them to Armenia, and it's just by inviting them, by helping them, by bringing them, help them move to Armenia. He's tremendously sort of enriching the life in Armenia with those wonderful individuals. They're just like him. They only want the best for Armenia, for the people of Armenia, and they only exude love and kindness for the world, despite what happened to their, of course, to all of our relatives in 1915 and prior to 1915. So that's the last individual I was going to mention. Dr. Zorian is just an incredibly kind individual, incredibly effective businessman and scientist. He has an engineering degree also, just like Dr. Panosian. And so these are real people from Lebanon who love Armenia and the people of Armenia, so much so that, folks, there is no difference for them whether they don't see it like, oh, I'm from Lebanon, therefore. No, folks. It's like we're one big family, regardless where you're from. Regardless if Andre came to Armenia from Belgium, folks, he speaks French. That's his native language. Regardless, Dr. Panosian from Lebanon originally. He speaks mostly English, of course. Dr. Zorian is from Lebanon. Sam Simonian, I believe he's from Lebanon, if I'm not mistaken also. We have a lot of Lebanese Armenians, but that's the beauty. Armenians from Lebanese, you're God blessed for this rebuilding unity. You have this knack for rebuilding unity. You are something about the environment where you grew up, my dearest Armenian brothers and sisters who are from Lebanon originally. There's got to be some unity, something about you that's very unique. I'll tell you one last story, I promise you. My wife and I were flying into San Francisco, and we landed at the wrong airport because the runway was busy or something. We landed in Oakland instead of San Francisco. And so, they obviously, they brought a bunch of little shuttle buses to bus us to our airport, destination airport in San Francisco. And so there's one Lebanese man who was driving me and my wife and a bunch of other people in that minivan. We thought we were, well, we knew we were in good hands, folks, because this Lebanese man from Beirut was driving 100 and we were running late so that we could catch our next flight. So we were extremely pressed for time. He was driving, it's like I don't know, 150 miles an hour on a highway while smoking a cigarette and holding his, in those days, they had these Nextel telephones, folks. Like those walkie-talkie phones. There was a phone plus a walkie-talkie, all in one, two in one. Nextel, if you remember those days. Anyway, Nextel telephone in his hand. So when you use that two-way radio, it wouldn't burn up your minutes. So that's why they were using those walkie-talkie style communication with his team. So he's talking on the phone, on the radio, to coordinate all on this transportation mission. He was smoking a cigarette with his left hand. With his right hand, he was holding the wheel, the steering wheel. He was going 150 miles an hour. He was talking to me. He was talking to other passengers in the van. He was going 150, folks. He was from Beirut. And for some reason, we felt safe. I'll never forget that experience for as long as I live. Because anybody else, we would just command them to stop the vehicle where we're going to get out, because that's not proper driving, folks. 150 miles an hour going, smoking and talking on the phone. But he was so together, he was so tough, and he was so smart at the same time. We knew we were in safe hands. That's people from Lebanon, folks. That's people from Beirut. So one last thing, Dr. Zorian, Dr. Panosian, Sam, you are amazing people from Lebanon. You got that sort of a glue that really gives you that unity, like that man who drove us to the airport. There's something about you that really nobody else has. And that's why we love you in a very special way, because you are the glue. You are literally the glue and the catalyst. You are the catalyst. You are the driving force in our Armenian movement here. Really, I mean, I can see it. I can feel it. I sense it. It's all around us. It's all done by the Lebanese Armenians. So God bless you. We pray for you daily, every hour on the hour. And we are one still. We're just one big Armenian family. And we belong to a much, much larger Christian family. So 17 million Armenians, we love you. Come to Armenia. Contact us on our website, myarmenianfamily.com, in the Contact Us page. If you wish, you can send us your resume or CV. You can attach a file, preferably a PDF file, up to 10 megabytes in size. And you can just answer that little questionnaire on our website, just who you are and where you are, and that will help us a lot. Now, we do have money, but many of you asked, if you wish to support us, if you wish to, if you can't come to our meeting, but you wish to participate in this activity, of course, we created specifically for you a special on our website. You go to myarmenianfamily.com, and within the first page, first part of our, you can't miss it. It says, support us with agape love. Support us with your agape love is a hyperlink, which means the blue little text that you can click on, and you'll be taken to a secure page where you could use your debit or credit card to make a donation, or we encourage you to actually become our monthly supporters. That way we'll feel your agape love with us on a monthly basis, and we will be praying for you specifically by your name. And so for that, you just go to myarmenianfamily.com to send us a message, or to support us, or to ask a question. Just stay in touch. Be on the lookout for a 2-hour-long video that's about to come out. The title, the name of the video will be What Every Christian Should Know About the Armenian Genocide. This will be our first video title that will be titled this for a long-form video format. And I just want to say we love you very much. God bless you. Take care. We want to see you at the very top, preferably in Armenia, at the very top with us on Mount Aragats. And we'll take you to Mount Ararat if you so wish. If this is going to be your special pilgrimage to see Noah's Ark, would be happy to make the arrangements. It's going to be a very special trip, and it only happens usually once a year, and we have to plan for it. So let us know. Let us know your thoughts. God bless you. Take care. It's been roughly 3 hours and 20 minutes, longest live stream. But again, folks, I was simply testing the equipment. I don't know. I don't even know if it's going to show up. What you're going to see, I'm going to see here in a minute. I'm going to see if there's anything on the screen when I play this video back, okay? God bless you. Take care. Pray for peace in the world every hour on the hour. Take care. Bye-bye.